me, y'all. Oh, excuse me.
Line unmuted.
What we listening to? That one over there?
This one over here, I think that one's having some issues, so we probably need to go back.
What we got, one? 1 minute?
Frank Corner, Mr. Chairman. All right.
We're about to go ahead and get started at 6 o'clock for our meeting. With that.
Let's pray. Our Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be here this evening. Thank you for the blessing of being able to enter into a new year. Thank you for all the many blessings that we've celebrated through the holiday season, Christmas, and all that's been available to us. Thank you for that. We thank you for this evening, for each one that's turned out. We do pray, Lord, as we go through this meeting, that we'll be mindful of the business at hand that you give us insight. We pray for those that serve this nation and this community. We pray that you continue to bless them and their family. Thank you for their service. Thank you for the privilege here that we have this evening, that we might look into the business of the county for the people's sake. Thank you for that. We just pray that you'll lead, guide, and direct us, Lord, in every way here tonight. We'll set it up and be pleased in your sight. Thank you for that, in Jesus.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're about to start our meeting, and in that, there's some things we need to say before we do actually get this on the agenda. And that's to protect the public and the Board of County Commissioners. Conference line has been set up to accommodate community access to the meeting. Conference line 1917-900-1022. And access code is 32347 #. This is not a toll-free number, and you may be subject to long-distance charges according to your long-distance plan. When the chairperson opens the meeting for public comment, please follow the below instructions. If you wish to speak, please dial 5. The moderator will unmute your line when it's your turn to speak and notify you by announcing the last 4 digits of your telephone number. Please announce your name and address. You will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. The meeting will also be live streamed on the Taylor County Board of County Commissioners Facebook page. If you wish to view the meeting on Facebook, you must have a Facebook profile. Search under the Taylor County Board of County Commissioners. You can view the meeting at 6 p.m. The Facebook live stream will not be monitored for questions or comments. Please call the conference line number if you wish. With that being said, okay, we had the pledge allegiance to the approve the agenda, we have some deletions and had the one addition. Do I have a motion that you approve
I've got a couple of things that I would like to
on the
suggest.
consent agenda?
No, on the agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm asking if it pleases the board, if we could move item 16 up to become 9A. That's the county attorney, county administrator, and the county engineer to update the board on the status of the Foley Cutoff Road construction project contractual dispute. And the reason I'm asking that is because, item number 9, we have someone that is supposed to appear to discuss the Foley Cutoff Road, so I thought it would be appropriate if we could go ahead and get that update at the same time, because there may be some dialogue back and forth.
Okay,
And then I would like to ask if it's the pleasure of the board to switch agenda item number 10 and 11. That way we can hear from the health department before we discuss the Fiddler Crab Festival. That's all.
okay.
Would you like the update before Mr. Bates wants to appear?
And that would be good, yeah.
Okay.
Either way, it's fine.
Okay.
Alright.
Nothing?
Second.
All in favor? That we do that. We switched over. Now, adding number 4, Florida Department of Revenue Employment Tax Invoice. That was on the consent agenda too, okay? So we'll go ahead and get started. The consent agenda approved as written. Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Now, that was to table the rules of procedure, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Did you understand that? That's the table of rules and procedure. Okay?
I'm sorry, did you approve the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
First thing. Do we need to go back and do it again?
No, sir.
Okay. Looks like we're going to number 9, right? Number 9 and 16, Mr. Blair Bailey, the appeal, discuss the Foley Cutoff Road. Is that where we're at?
No, it's okay. I did the same thing. Is Mr. Beatty in the hall?
Good evening, man. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Blair Beatty. I'm a citizen. I live on Foley Cutoff Road. And, I read some very disturbing stuff in the newspaper about all this. Something about 300,000 extra and contractor defaulting, and we may or may not get paid anytime soon.
Line muted.
What's going on out there?
Line unmuted. Line muted.
Do you,
Okay.
is it okay to
Can
do?
you ask a question, sir?
Yeah, we're doing it with the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanna know what's going on out there on the Foley Cutoff
With
Road?
Foley Cutoff, I want to know what about the 300,000 extra?
Yeah, I'd be happy to address
Discuss.
this if I'm allowed to enter the room.
Well, I was kind of hoping they'd let
You are
that
now
on the agenda. that you were
Line
gonna-
unmuted.
I'd like to, hear that before I have my comments.
Yeah,
You
yes,
may
sir.
answer all my questions.
Yes, sir, I hope so.
Mr. Chairman, could I suggest that we go ahead and let our county engineer present, and it may answer some of his questions?
It will. Okay. Mr. Dudley,
Is it okay?
Mr. Bailey, we're gonna let the county engineer go ahead and talk to us a little bit, okay?
Okay, I'm hearing impaired. Can I stand here and listen, or can somebody help me dial in or whatever?
It's a little sooner than I expected. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And what we wanted to do was return back to you because of some questions that are in the community about that, about Foley Cutoff Road and what's happening and where we left it last time. So if you recall, we were kind of at a position to where we had made an initial offer and that offer was rejected basically by the contractor's council. So we, with the board's consent, proceeded to go directly to the surety company for resolution of the performance bond.
Mhm.
That was met, that response was met much more positively. And what I'd like to do is I have a few handouts here, just to make sure I think it's all stuck. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a copy of the original proposal that we provided to the contractor on December 9th. We're going to give you a copy of the letter that we sent to the surety on December 23rd. And then I'm going to give you a copy of, some correspondence from the county attorney. That was, I have one extra copy to you. That was the culmination of it after we went through it. So if you look on the December 9th, this is the proposal that we originally offered to the contractor through their counsel, Mr. Sellers. We were being extremely gracious. We were trying to avoid kind of the black eye on the contractor, letting them avoid the default concept, but we were going to stick by the contract and we were going to assess liquidated damages, which were in accordance with it. But we were expecting that the contractor would finish the job as required at no additional expense to the county above the original contracted amount. And that was what we offered. And we even extended their time frame to go to April 30th of 2021 because that was the time extension that we were able to receive through DOT under the funding agreement. And as you recall, we were told, no, thank you. And by the way, here's our counter proposal, and we want you to pay county or pay attorney fees and things like that. And we said absolutely not. So what we crafted after we were here last time, we gave you a draft of what we were proposing. Conrad took and put that together right here at the holidays. And you can see on December 23rd, this is a formal notification that we sent to the surety. We were at that point, we were done with the contractor talking to him. So we went straight to the source on this. We documented where we had met all the conditions and obligations and the prerequisites under the bond and told them that we were seeking resolution of this within 2 weeks time frame, which also was consistent with the bond. Then a lot of this was happening while we were in and out of the office. But you will see the last letter in that packet is dated also on December 23rd. This is correspondence from our county attorney whereby he had, after forwarding our requirement to the surety company, he received a response back from their counsel, the contractor's counsel, saying, okay, we want to accept the previous proposal. We want to go back to December 9th and we're willing to accept that now. Conrad and Ms. Mwanda, that we all conference called in and we said, not a problem, as long as it is accepted in total. We're not going to nitpick the little pieces of it. You will accept it completely. This is showing that, this is a statement from Conrad to Mr. Sellers that is the only way we're accepting this. I didn't have a copy of the email where he responded back to you, but I will turn to Conrad, and he's already told us verbally that they've accepted it. He just has to forward that at some point in time.
It's, if I may interrupt, it's just a very short thing. It's accepted, and then I send an email back to them, is when are they gonna get started?
That's correct. So right now, what we have done is we have gone to the December 9th proposal. This is the framework that we're gonna proceed towards the end of the project. Basically, what it does is it says, Highgate can remain the prime contractor on this. They are obligated to enjoin Anderson Columbia as the subcontractor. Anderson is obligated, and only Anderson is allowed to do the roadway base work and asphalt placement. Pygate will be responsible for the balance of the work outside of the roadway. Now, what this does is it basically avoids litigation, because in this, we are saying we're going to remove that determination of default, but you're also going to get rid of all these allegations of material breach of the contract. So it goes both ways. And what it does, it puts us back on equal footing going forward, up through November 4th, when we received that notification from Pygate that they were going to cease pursuit of the work. We're going to put liquidated damages for all their delays up to that point. Going forward, we are not going to assess any more unless they get into the position to where they don't meet the April 30th timeframe. I feel pretty confident. I've got a meeting an on-site meeting tomorrow that is with the contractor, RCEI, and Anderson. So we're gonna go over the scope of work and kind of make sure that all our heads are in the same, on the same page, and that we all understand each other's obligations going forward. So I'm telling you that it is much, much brighter picture than we had the last time we were here.
Okay.
We feel like we've reached resolution of this. We've got rid of the litigious aspect of it, and we're looking at it more as this is just a construction project that we're going to move forward to completion on. So I will thank my counterparts on both sides of me for the assistance of getting through this. It obviously isn't finished by any means. We've got a lot of work left to do, but I feel confident with the capabilities of their subcontractor when we get them on site, that we shouldn't have any issue at least getting to that point. Financially, my obligation and my concern has always been that I've got about 500 grand left of reimbursement requests from DOT. It is easily achievable with the base work and the 2 lifts of asphalt. So at that point, I think if there are any losses due to additional costs, that's going to be borne by the contractor. It won't be borne by Taylor County.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
when will work resume?
I kind of begged a little bit today to try to narrow that down so that we could, because obviously that's a $64,000 question. The short answer is I don't know yet, but like I said, we have a meeting tomorrow, and I think once they get that level of comfort of how the relationship will move forward, they will have a little more certainty on when they will physically mobilize. We put it in writing today, asking that very question. We asked for a submittal of their schedule as well as their controlling work items, which all this is just contractual talk for me. And I haven't had a response back, but I fully expect when we get on site tomorrow that that's going to be one of the major questions of when are we going to see your equipment move here? The guy that we fully expect from Anderson's crew that's going to do the physical work on the roadway, because of the condition that it's in, he finishes up in Jacksonville at close of business tomorrow. And then after that, my expectation is if things go well tomorrow, he moves in on Wednesday. What I've asked them is I'm not asking you to start working the road, but at least safe it up and smooth it up so that the traveling public can have a little bit less of a headache to go up and down the road. And then what I fully expect then is they'll kind of back up and then start reworking some of the roadway.
Okay, and will be noticed? Will be noticed when the work resumes?
I'll leave that to the county administrator to let each of you know that that's happening. I really don't have a formal mechanism to notify you.
Newspaper too, so that the citizens know that we're moving along and everything's gonna be okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I understand that right, then the expectation could be as early as Thursday that the touch-up work can be done to address the issues of safety and condition the road's currently in after the rains of the weekend.
Yeah, what I told the project superintendent earlier today was that if it were to where we would be in a position to have their equipment on site on Wednesday, I felt it was a little bit onerous to tell them, go snatch another one from somewhere else, mobilize it in, do work for today, then demobilize it just to bring another one in on the next day. So my hope and what I will be encouraging is that relationship between the two of them tomorrow so that Wednesday morning, we see that grader on the low boy showing up on site. That's what I'm hoping for.
And that would be to add any additional materials or whatever necessary to.
What you're gonna see, my guess is you're gonna see him, it's called hard planing, just hard plane the surface down to where it provides a smooth driving surface. Then they will reassess based on, they've already got the model for the road in their machine. So he will reassess then whether more material is needed or material is already there. So that's something that basically when you're grading and it's following the three-dimensional model, you're either touching dirt or you're not touching dirt.
That won't run the risk of contaminating the materials that we've already been trying to deal with, work through.
No, because he won't be grabbing anything from anywhere else, and he won't be taking the good stuff out of the middle and putting it on the shoulders.
I noticed the one part looked like it had some base material down already.
What you actually saw was the north 4,000 feet had what is termed, it's a bituminous material called prime. It acts as a bonding agent between the lime rock and the overlying asphalt layers, but it also acts as a weatherproofing layer. But unfortunately, it's kind of like putting felt on a roof. It can only stay exposed for so long, and then it just degrades. You gotta put shingles on it, and you gotta put asphalt on it.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, then you lose it, and unfortunately, that's what happened.
Any more questions?
I just want to thank you, Kenneth, for your diligence, and,
This was a
and
tough one.
I know this has been a real pain.
Yes, ma'am.
And, I appreciate LaWanda and the other people that were involved trying to bring this to fruition. And thank you again, both of you, and anybody else that helped.
Mr. Conrad played a large
Yes.
role, yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Okay. Mr. Bishop, I believe you said you had never had a company to do this for. You had to go this far with the company before.
That's correct. This is all new to me with regard to bonding issues and so forth, and I learned a lot.
Yes, sir.
Y'all should be sending me a bill for that. But, I think that one of the things that the four of us learned, that would be Mr. Bishop, Uncle Phil, but we're not Ken, and our county engineer and county administrator and myself, is that stand firm, and in a nice way, and it's worked out so far, and say a little prayer when you go home tonight that everything will work out like we think it's gonna do.
Is that all you got, Ken?
Yes, sir, that's enough.
That's one question, after Mr. Bishop, should that not be the case, is there a contingency or backup plan given the conditions?
Absolutely. We have in no way waived our rights to enforce the performance bond if things go awry from this point forward. That was very clear. So, don't think that just because we've got to this point that they can do whatever they want. There are still contractual obligations that they have to meet, and we still have that assurance of insurance through the performance bond that if things are uncooperative or non-pursuit, we won't hesitate to use that mechanism again.
I hope that I have to, but.
The same as here. Yes, sir.
I want to make sure the gentleman, when
I was gonna say
get all
that
his
too.
answers. right?
Yes.
I was just have a question. So we're talking about 1.5 miles of paved road here. This isn't a big project. I've been driving down that road every day since they peeled the pavement on, running my expensive vehicle down it. Some days my daughter has to take my vehicle because she can't drive to work. That's ridiculous. That road's not maintained, by the way. I live on the south end, and I about beat my teeth out coming into work this morning. Now, I heard you talking about, I work with contracts, different kinds, or labor contracts, and I know that when we deviate, we have to really document it. I mean, if we relax a requirement, are they gonna be able to come back and cite that as any kind of precedent when they default again?
We haven't relaxed any requirement that I'm aware of.
You were talking about, the flex. Y'all giving them some flex in the contract or their agreement?
No, sir.
Okay, then what did we adjust other than the end date and the fact that we're not suing the pants off of them?
What we did is we told them that we would enforce liquidated damages for their delays beyond the approved contract time up through November 4th. That was the day they notified us that they were going to not pursue the job anymore. We went through the resolution process under the terms of the bond with their counsel as well as the surety's counsel. We reached resolution on those matters December 23rd. Once they return back to the job, we are giving them the time between that date and April 30th to complete the balance of the work. If they extend beyond the April 30th timeframe, liquidated damages and other enforceable provisions are back on the table again.
So they quit the job, they said, we ain't doing it. We started the process, and then somehow they came back in. I don't understand that. I just don't. I don't know why we're not using this other company that's ready to go
Well, because of two things, sir.
and suing them for the difference.
Two things, sir. The first one is if we take and just wave them aside because we're dissatisfied with the relationship and we,
Satisfied, they left the agreement. They said, we're not doing it, didn't they?
two things, sir. If we just push the contractor aside and we absolve that contractual arrangement, then we also absolve ourselves of the ability to request any consideration on the performance bond. That puts any additional cost on us. If you were to look back at the bids originally submitted, you will see that the two lowest bidders were separated by $300,000.
I understand that.
That's not a cost that we're willing to absorb. So we felt that it was the best position for us to pursue it through the surety company, which put all additional cost liability on them. And unfortunately, that process can take, through the court system, up to 2 years.
Right.
We resolved this in a matter of a couple months. So we felt that the end result was the most favorable option that we had on the table. And realizing that that resolution came back to Taylor County, knowing that we still get what we contractually agreed to in the beginning, and there's no additional dollars for us. Plus, we've got an extra $100,000+ of additional CEI oversight expense because of all this delays, that too won't come out of our pocket. So we've done a huge effort to protect our taxpayers as much as we can to insulate them from all of this hassle and not put any additional cost than we contractually agreed to at the beginning.
Till April though, right?
Till April, yes, sir.
So we're looking at almost 9
No,
months.
we will have, we've asked for a schedule already. So we anticipate that we'll get that scheduled this week. It'll probably be towards the last part of the week. Administratively, they're not really efficient. But I fully expect that you're going to see at least 60 days worth of construction work effort to finish the job. April was enough of a time frame that from a DOT perspective, because it's a reimbursement agreement, that gave me enough cushion that I wouldn't be sitting here having to ask them again because I'm not going to get another extension. That one went all the way up to the DOT secretary level to get that one approved. So there's been a huge effort on this, and we sympathize with you of how horrible this job has been. I've never been associated with one that has been this bad.
I've just never seen one where you didn't have better recourses or you know.
We started this process back in September.
That's what I'm saying. It's drug out.
We knew that they weren't being efficient. We started the dialogue, and unfortunately, in order for a bond to be used, you have to go through all the steps. And the documentation you have there lays it out on the timing of all of it. You know, if you look through that and you still have questions about it, feel free to give us a call, and I'll try to respond to you as best I can.
I will. But I can just tell you, there's people live all up and down Foley. I see them, we talk, I'm surprised some of them didn't show up tonight. Really am, because they're fed up with it too. Everything they own, because of the Lime Rock does.
Well, I think, sir, that we have a better plan going forward, and it's our hope that by the end of the week, we'll see a much smoother driving surface, and by the end of the month, maybe we'll have my hope is we see an asphalt surface down. And obviously, then it'll be much more tolerable.
Yeah, who's county commissioner for District 3? Are they here?
Michael Newman?
You riding down Foley very much?
I was still there last night, yes, sir.
Very good. You see what I'm talking about? I saw it and I felt it, I sure did.
Well, the good thing is I had a meeting on another construction project with Anderson this morning, and the project superintendent and the project manager both came to the job site through there, and they are very much aware of its condition. So I think that's going to further them making an effort to try to resolve it quicker.
So until the construction starts, what's the maintenance schedule for that road bed?
Like I was talking about just a second ago with respect to asking Anderson, drop what you're doing on another job, bring a grader over here for a day, and then turn around and take it back for the final grader to be here the following day. I'm not gonna do that. We are anticipating that when they finish that job up in Jacksonville on Tuesday evening, Wednesday, they're gonna try to transport that one over, and that's when he'll start trying to safe that road up, excuse me.
Because I thought the county would maintain it, that's what I read in the article.
No, sir, as litigious as this one is, we don't really need to be in a position to where we're mixing our labor forces and equipment that has that degree of potential impact on the road, knowing that this contractor is very quick to say, you caused this, you need to pay me. So we have done our very best to try to avoid that scenario.
Well, on behalf of the taxpayers, I'd appreciate it if y'all would quit worrying about their reputation.
Who's?
Okay, the contractor. Tiger,
Understood.
okay, those are my tax dollars that he's screwing with.
Mine too.
Yours.
Yes, sir. I take it very personally out there.
I do too, especially every day I have to drive down there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I want to say one thing, and this has been an unfortunate situation. It was no fault of yours, it was no fault of ours. And I want you to leave here knowing that you have done a very good job, given the circumstances, to get us to where we are. And again, I appreciate what you've done.
No problem. I'm okay.
Okay. Mr. Bishop, I'm getting back to you. You said that was continued education. I believe you pay for, you owe the county for continued education. But anyway, we going.
You personally send me a bill.
All right, well, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you do, okay?
I love it.
All right, okay.
That's from Philadelphia, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, with that being said, we're gonna move on. I believe we got number 11 and number 10. We got I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Patrick Juarez.
Andrew Boyd, okay.
Hello, commissioners. Welcome, new commissioners. Nice to meet you. My name is Patrick Juarez. I'm your health officer for the county. I cover Cullen and Taylor County, so sometimes when you call me, you'll see a different exchange, but that's why, because I'm over both counties. Lana asked me to come in today and give you all a little bit of an update about what's going on with COVID, with the health department's response, and the best news that I got in 2020, and now 2021, because we just got another round of it, is the vaccine that's coming in. But first, I'm gonna go through this report that's in front of you. For those in the audience, I'm sorry you don't see it, but this is all available on Florida Department of Health's website, if you go into the county reports. The report in front of you, folks, is a summary of our county. So far, since COVID started, we've had just over 2,000 cases. As you're moving across the page to the right, what you're seeing there is our number of cases per day, in which we're averaging about 14 cases a day. I would bring you down then, it's something that I bring up each time, our count now is, I knew I'd need my glasses, I'm so sorry.
You understand?
We're at 26 deaths, and that number continues to grow. I would take you all the way to the bottom of the page then and point out that those deaths, that 80% of them have been from 65 and up. 80%. 62% is in the 65 to 84, but basically anybody over the 65 range is where the vast majority of our deaths have been. That's the point that I'm trying to make there.
So 65 and older is considered a high-risk category.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that is why I hope every single person here missed this, because it came out literally just before Christmas. The governor came out with an order that says that the order in which we'd be getting the vaccine as it came in was going to be in three groups. And those groups were the people that are in our senior living facilities, the medical people that are working on patients, and it's people 65 and older. I'm not going to say seniors, but I'm going to say people that are 65 and older. Specifically for the health department, we're responsible for that 65 and the medical providers, and that's what we have been working on. Last Monday, we got 500 doses of Moderna vaccine. If you're into tracking all the names and all that kind of stuff, but just so you know, it's Moderna is the one we got. Because of questions that I have gotten from various sources, I want you to know, prior to Monday morning, I had no idea how many doses we were going to get. I knew we would be getting some vaccine, but we had no idea how much. So that's how come a plan was not put in concrete before that time. Because again, I could have literally gotten 5 doses. I could have gotten, 100,000 doses. I had no idea how many doses we were getting. So once we knew how many doses we had and that they were on site, we came up with a plan. All last week, what we've been doing is working on getting our medical people vaccinated. They've been coming in, we've been getting that set up and going. Also, what we did is we set up some clinics that are starting tomorrow morning for our 65 and older. And people started calling. I have no doubt that many of you commissioners probably got phone calls from some of the people in your community that said, the health department's not answering the phone, don't they work? Or I can't get through, I can't get through. What happens is the Department of Health in Taylor County is on the same phone system as Waukeala, Leon, Gadsden. The 67 counties, about half of us are on the exact same system. 8 o'clock Monday morning, every person 65 and older started calling their respective health departments, and the phone system went down. It'd come up, go down, go up, and go down. So what we did, I laughed because of, that's all you can do, I think. What we did is we quickly have created a website where individuals can go and register. And so that they don't have to call. They can just go online and they can register.
65-year-olds and older doing that?
65 and up, come on in. Come on. I'm going to have Luana get that to you. Because of it's not a Department of Health website, it's one of these names that goes on this long. I'm sorry. Again, it was an emergency, so it was all right. Let's create this. Let's get it going.
But there's a high number of 65 and over folks using the site.
Yeah, there is. But I will also tell you that at Monday morning, once our phone lines were open, within 30 minutes we had 200 people call wanting to get an appointment. Mm-hmm. By the way, those 200 people have an appointment. We opened up enough clinics so that we could cover the vaccine we have. I will tell you that I am conservative in this aspect of, they've told me we're going to continue to get vaccine, and we will continue to get vaccine. We'll get more vaccine next week, we'll get some more vaccine after that. But I'm not willing to set up clinics so far in advance to turn around and have to call someone and say, by the way, we didn't get the vaccine, we can't do this for you. But we have now scheduled clinics out into February. So we've already got those set up.
You have that amount of vaccine on hand.
I'm very confident we will have that. That amount I'm very, very sure we're going to have.
But this is the initial dose that you're talking about.
Yes, sir. And I promise you I'll cover your next question. Give me just a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just letting you know. I promise you I'll cover it. Let me just cover that now. One of the common questions we get is, oh, you got 500 doses, so that means you can only do this for 3 weeks, and then you have to start using your 500 doses. The way the feds have set it up is our 500 second round doses that is due 28 days later, we will get that on top of our others. So to make a point, we should get 1,000 doses.
So 500 primary doses of the vaccine.
Right, plus 500 of our, yeah. So those are covered. We will have that. Any vaccine we give out as a primary dose, using your terminology, we will have the second dose. There's no question about that at all. We will have that.
But we don't have a date for the additional 500 primary doses.
That will come the week, it'll come the week 28 days after we got the first one.
So there's a 28-day waiting period before the government increases the amount of initial doses of primary doses. Is that?
No, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood your question.
So the question is, we got 500 initial doses of the vaccine.
Mhm.
And when could we expect additional?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we got that today. That was my best news of 2021. We got our second, we got 500 doses today. So last Monday, we got 500 doses. Today, we got 500 doses.
But it's taken an additional time to schedule those clinics to start.
Yes, it's okay, I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna do our scheduling moving forward. But I understand there's 2 more questions over here.
I'm seeing where they're doing, I'm reading some material where it's saying some folks are, taking 2 doses for it to be effective.
Yes, and that is with Moderna, that's Moderna. And so you'll get an initial dose or a primary dose using a gentleman's term here. And then 28 days later, or at least 28 days later, you'll get a second dose. So you may be too young to have this, but this goes like a lot of vaccines you have as you do get older, is you get an initial dose and you get a follow-up dose and you finally get a third. If you ever go for hepatitis, you'll get the initial, second, and third. Sure, you have a question.
When can I get mine? That's,
Well, if you're 65 and older, I can get you hooked up. Okay. Mark? No, unfortunately, that one is booked up. I was booked up in the first 20 minutes.
Okay, all right.
But, go ahead, sir.
How many doses have you actually done so far or given? How many have you actually given?
We gave, I want to say we gave, I think it's 60, is about how many medical people we reached. Tomorrow, we're supposed to get 70, we'll have 70 doses given out.
How long does it take to give one?
To actually give the shot, about 15 seconds.
In other words, when a person gets in there, you can pretty much work them right through.
Unfortunately, no. This is like saying, how long does it take to change the oil on a car? It only takes a minute, but you gotta fill out the paperwork. And with Moderna, the medical requirement is that after we give them the shot, we need to observe them for 15 minutes. So we not only have, if you would, not only do we have a waiting area, I'm not gonna call it a pen, but we have a waiting area to where people are filling out their paperwork. Then they get moved over, they get their shot. Then we have a waiting area for them to, for the 15 minutes. And then they go home. They can run out of the health department and then we screen. Nobody runs waste screening.
One question I've been asked and I could not answer.
Please, I
I'm
want to answer.
going to ask you tonight. Are the people having to sign a whole harmless agreement of some kind?
I don't remember it being a hold harmless, but I can tell you it's gone through our legal office, so I'm sure there's some language in there that says something to that effect.
Well, I was asked that question, I could not answer.
If they would like to see the form beforehand, I'd be glad to give them the form. Since, one thing that I don't believe was planned out very well, I gotta tell you, telling on my own department. They didn't plan that part out very well because we're having to print our own forms, so. I'm not real freely just giving out the forms to just random people on the street. But I'll be glad to give them the form if they want to see the form. It's the same form that's used in 67 counties. I would like to tell a little bit about the clinic if I could, and then I can tell you about what's coming up. And I think that may answer some of the questions that your public is answering. Okay? I told you we have clinics set up through February 3rd, is what it is. Those are clinics that are going to be run at our health department, in the health department. Park car, come in. After February 3rd, we're looking at moving to either a drive-by, similar to what they're doing in Leon County, if you've seen any of that on the news, or we may be doing a walk-by, where we will be coming to the county saying, hey, can we use one of the county facilities that's larger where there's enough parking so that people can park, and we can speed up that process of them getting through.
I've seen that on TV of them just driving through and getting shot.
Sure. What you don't see is the hour ahead of time that they were in the car waiting to be filling out their form and then to get guided through. The challenge about all of those, by the way, isn't as much the medical staff that I have. And the medical staff doing the vaccine is all the other people. You have to have traffic control. You have to have force protection. You have to have on the other side, you have to have people watching them, moving the people to and from.
So would there be a chance of that being in a remote type location, or would that have to be located in Perry?
Initially, I will tell you that it's probably, the places we have looked at, and I'm gonna mess up the name of the park, so somebody's gonna have to help me here, because every time I mess it up. One of the parks we've looked at using, and we've also looked at Forest Capital, because of the large area inside where we get people in. One of the things we have been doing, and we still are doing testing at the health department. You know, they line up and they come through. In bad weather, what we're using right now, thankfully to the people that have the old hospital, they're allowing us to use their overhang. That's all we have protecting us. And that's all we have. So makes for, I hope you appreciate it, makes for a challenge trying to be out there in full PPE and all your equipment and trying to help those people get through. So that's one of the things we're looking at. We're looking at possibly asking the county that. We're not doing it yet, but I'm giving you an idea of what's coming forward. We're looking at our clinics right now to observe how long and how we can make it quicker and more efficient. That's what we want to do. Our goal is to vaccinate. It's not to prevent people from getting vaccinated. It's to get them vaccinated if they want vaccination. I will tell you also what happened this year that, it's like surveys anywhere. If you've ever been a part of a survey, don't always believe them. We did surveys and we asked if you want to get the vaccine, and the answer across the state was, not really. I want to wait. I think I'm going to hold out. Until last Monday morning, when we said the vaccine was available, everybody wants the vaccine, that is great news. That is super, super news. But we were not prepared for that onslaught of people wanting the vaccine. I'm telling you good news. I hope you appreciate that. This is good news. We're getting vaccine. We're going to get more vaccine in. Anybody that wants to get vaccinated is going to get vaccinated.
But the question on these particular doses, these vaccines are not restricted just to Davis County residents.
That's right. Because
of Florida residents?
No, this is a federal program. The feds have bought this vaccine. So I'll give you this point because I'm really not worried too much about somebody I'm looking up in case the audience doesn't know that at the screen. Case in point, if there is a visitor from North Carolina down here hunting, and they're going to be here for 28 days, and we're at the point that we're doing a general vaccine, we're going to give them the vaccine. If somebody's coming in here from Jefferson County, they work here at the plant, but they live in Jefferson County, they're 65 years old, we're going to give them the vaccine. Likewise, all of our people that work in Leon County and anywhere else are going to be able to go there and get that vaccine. It's a statewide program. It's a nation program. There is no county dollars being spent on this. This is federal. We're not allowed to charge anything for it. It's free. In case I didn't mention, by the way, it's a free vaccine. Come on in, free vaccine.
Okay, thank you. I have excuse me, if you can bear with me, I have a slew of questions. It's been reported that 20 million vaccines would be available by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And the latest report that I've seen is only about 2.6 million have been administered. I don't quite understand, what the delay is, and is it because it's not produced, or it can't be shipped, or it can't be stored, or do you know?
I can officially say no. I know that we got 500 doses last Monday, and that day we started vaccinating people. We got 500 doses today. Tomorrow we're starting I'm not going to call it general clinic because there's no walk-ins, but we're going to give our vaccine. I too have heard all those reports, what I've gotten from the news channels and what I've gotten from CDC. All I can say is I know when we got our vaccine.
Okay, several more questions.
Please.
Now, you talk about a drive-through vaccination. Is there not a 15-minute wait period after you get it?
Yeah, so we've gone through, for those of you that are into logistics, we've gone into some ideas about how we could do that as far as, okay, pull your cart forward and here's these slots. And then you have somebody going around from car to car. You know, so you're gonna park over here 15 minutes, okay, to the next row, 15 minutes, next row, 15 minutes, and then you just go back. That's the advantage of using some of the county facilities because you have the parking space. I'm sorry, it's the sports complex, I'm so sorry. Damn lame. We're talking about the sports complex, so there's enough spacing there. But again, that requires having people to be able to go out and say, okay, take these next 10 people, making up a number, next 10 people, put them in this row.
Well, I think that we have enough of space that we could probably accommodate that. The one thing that concerns me also is that you have a lot of older people that don't use a computer. They don't have one and they don't use one. And just assured, they're probably gonna show up without an appointment. And I know I've been listening to what's been going on in Leon County with so many people that have shown up and turned away, wait in line 2 hours, and then they're turned away. So how are you gonna handle that? If they don't have an appointment, will they be turned away?
I will say that at this point, we're not doing an open clinic, we're not doing we are making appointments. So that we can control that. But I will say that we will have to get to a point that we will no longer have a reservation system.
Yes.
I have also been promised, my quotes there, by the way, air quotes, is for the sometimes promises don't come true. I've been promised that we will have a statewide scheduling program out in the near future. I was also told I'd grow back hair, but I haven't. You know?
So now the big question is,
Mhm.
we've got folks here and we've got it on our agenda to speak about this large Fiddler Festival.
Okay.
We also have people that are wanting to return to organized sports.
Mhm.
And so what is DOH saying about such large gatherings as that? Then I got to follow up after you. Okay, sure.
There's two categories you spoke about there. There's organized sports, youth sports, et cetera, that type of thing. And then we're talking about
Festival.
a festival, you know, which includes everything from music festivals to, you know, any other thing you can think of that we would get together as a recreational type thing. DOH has always supported recreational sporting events. It is good for our youth. We have also said, I have also said, that we encourage you to have safety plans, which LaWanda shared with me several of the safety plans that these have, which include things such as requiring that there be spacing, social distancing spacing for anybody attending the event. So, use an example of football, which I watched all weekend long, that if you do have, you can have families a single family close together, but then you have spacing apart from all the other families. You have requirements on the coaches. You have requirements on how they do, that there's no longer everybody hug each other after the game's over. And, you know, the shaking hands. That's not gonna happen for right now. It's a recommendation. Okay? As far as festivals and concerts, one of my events that we put on through the health department is the Movies at the Park. We do every summer here in Perry. We do not recommend those. We do not recommend those because of, well, I've not seen anybody come up with a way to be able to do social distancing at one of these events. In order to see the movie at Movies at the Park, y'all gotta be in a really tight area. In order to go to the concert and hear the concert, y'all gotta be together. The outbreaks that we've had that have been our largest outbreaks in this area, of course in Leon County, But the largest outbreaks have been around events, parties, bars, and events. People drink, they lose their inhibitions, masks go away, they don't social distance, and we've had our outbreaks from there. So that is a general recommendation, I would say.
Okay, so we all know that whether it's a festival or whether it's a sporting event, you're gonna have some people that are gonna refuse to wear their mask, they're gonna refuse to social distance. And we don't have a mask police or a social distancing police. We can't enforce anything. We can come up with any kind of rule here we want to, I suppose, but we really don't have a way to enforce it. So, as Commissioner Brooks so eloquently said one time, you know, you're on your own. And I've thought about that many, many times since, and he's right. You are on your own. If you are afraid that you're gonna get it, don't go. You don't have to go to the festival. You don't have to go and participate in sports. The same thing with school. You can homeschool your children or you can send them. Nobody's gonna make you do it either way. But a question that I have, and maybe our attorney will be able to answer this question. For instance, with this festival and with sports, with the festival, could we just say, go ahead, have your festival. We're not telling you you can, but if you do, you're on your own. Does that limit us with liability?
No, I don't think so.
And then how would someone, and I'm sure you probably don't have case studies yet, but how could they prove that they got it from the sports complex or at the festival?
We have a hard time. You know, one of the things that we've done in the past is we've made folks sign a hold harmless and an indemnity agreement at the time they participated, for instance, in sports. And I think that could be done, but this is an area with regard to your question, Pam, that it hasn't been decided, and caution is the best way to be, an abundance of caution in my view with respect to it. And I noticed, and if you don't mind, I want to I looked at this graph here, and you look at it, and the most people that get this thing are 25 to 34 years of age, 35 to 44 years of age, and 45 to 54. And it's a significant drop when they get over that age. If you look at 65 to 74, why'd I mention that? I'm in that group, the upper part of it, had 168 cases, as opposed to 35 to 44, there's 415 cases.
That tells you something.
It sure does. It sure does.
Well, you know, and I understand the dynamics. The business people want to make money. And some of the citizens they're tired of wearing a mask, and they're tired of not doing anything, and they want to go have some fun. You know, so I was just hoping that there was a way that we could circumvent the liability that may come with such a festival or with organized sports.
Yeah, well, if you have the festival, but if you don't have a gate down there where you could say, okay, you can't come into the festival without signing this hold harmless and indemnity agreement that would go, I'm not going to sign that, and I'm not going to wear a mask, and you're not going to stop me, and I'm going to go to the Fiddler Crab Festival. Not me, I'm just talking about somebody else. You know, some people who think they're bulletproof.
We just don't have any control. We have no control of what goes on. So, I mean, again, If you wanna go, you're on your own.
You're on your own.
Don't go if you're afraid. I think that's what we're gonna have to get to, and I hate to say that. I mean, but reality is reality.
I did hear the whole harmless agreement against sports right now. The one, these big football stadiums and whatnot, they have to sign a whole harmless agreement before they get in. And I believe I saw that in the paper. That's I only seen it about twice. About a whole harmless agreement for somebody who might contract COVID-19.
I didn't make you do that.
The advantage of the sporting one is that if you put in a safety plan, you are talking about the players themselves, it's a limited amount, and you're talking you from the most vast majority. The family groups, again, they should already be in the group that they're together all the time anyway. It's keeping the rest separated. That's something you can't control at any festival or concert, because of, by nature, they're gonna be together. Yes, sir.
Usually at the sporting events, I mean, nowadays, most families are lined up from one end of the fence to the other, the kids in the dugout, families are lined up, and they're pretty well, if there's a game going on, you got families waiting behind the other, parents, and once they clear out, everybody moves their stuff in, and pretty well your families are kind of together. On the waivers, as far as hold harmless agreements, I kind of feel like we're more or less exposing ourselves a little bit, whenever we're required, you're asking people to sign these waivers, there's 2,000 something people that had this virus, and not one of them can tell you where they got the virus from. And we had this back early September. I couldn't tell you whether I got it at a gas pump, Walmart, a restaurant. So I can't help but feel like we're kind of exposing ourselves to, if someone does catch this virus, and then to say, hey, just say that I got it at the sports complex, or say that I got it at the Phillips Red Festival.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get a claim from the county or whoever it may be from a restaurant.
The difference I see, if I may, I think your information will confirm that, is there's an entry point to the recreation activity, which means that you have some control as far as crowd size, if you want to limit that, distancing, things of that nature. In a festival such as Thundercrab Festival, multiple entry points with no narrowed down, one gate, one exit. And those are the kind of things, at the same time, because of the size, and the potential quantity, you can't necessarily have what we would say a responsible or safe situation, because there's so many folks and there's so many entries or exit points, which I don't think is the case at the sports complex. So it does seem to be two different dynamics in the sense of potential crowd size, which in my mind means potential risk or infection rate, because of the younger folks, and Mr. Bishop talked about, it may have asymptomatic conditions and have no idea that they have the virus, but are in attendance. And that may spread that to those potential elderly, tired goers to these events, let's call them, partakers, that in some case or shape would be innocent bystanders, but subjected to these kind of potential exposures. So I think if we're looking at the information from the vaccines, we have some very good potential in the short term, as long as those vaccines and those quantities continue to come and folks want to be vaccinated. I think we're moving in the right direction. I don't think we're at a place that we can say, what I would say is, in the sense of this particular festival, I don't think we're really at that place, but I think the key component is going to be more patience and more time, so that more willing participants can get the vaccination that are in this high risk group. In these potential areas, while these infection numbers are not high, 80% of this death rate is exceptionally high, and a risk I don't think that we have to take at this point in time. So my consideration and direction, I'd say, would be that we would delay so that we know we have more vaccinated individuals that would potentially go, and that we would also be in a time frame that is not at an accelerated case level, whether that be infections or hospitalizations or deaths. And I believe all those numbers are on the increase, if I'm reading this chart correctly.
You're correct. You're correct.
Oh, Mr. Bishop, it's my understanding that the Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring this festival. If that's true, then why couldn't the Chamber of Commerce sign some kind of, hold harmless so that, would that be of any value?
Could be.
But one question also, I believe I've heard you say, Mr. Bishop, that those folks name all parties, and that's on county.
Oh, yeah.
county
Oh, yeah.
property.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it be the sports complex or this festival, that's on Taylor County property.
That's why I said could be. I mean, you know, the number one, of course, if you were able to prove how you got it, which is just going to be almost impossible, unless it's, you know, a group of two. But if they were to file a suit, you're right, Mike, that they would sue us, the chamber, the vendor, the dancer, the blah, 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 you know. You'd be inundated by it. I think it's more about us getting sued on this. I'm more worried about people getting sick than I am about people suing us. I really am, you know. That's where I'm at.
Excuse me, have we gone on to number 10, or are we still on number 9?
We were at number 11.
Or,
That kind of goes
it seems like we don't have
together.
them together, but y'all are going on to the next thing. And, you know, we wanted to hear what the gentleman had to say, and then we move on so that we have the opportunity to talk about it.
I think what we're trying to do, if I may, is we're trying, before we talk to you, we're trying to get some facts and some opinions from him so that we can intelligently talk to you when the time comes.
And I think he gave them to you.
We're still asking a few questions. If you could just be a little patient, we'll get
Thank you so
right with
very
you.
much.
I got a question, start back where we was with giving the doses. How many hours a day are you giving the doses out at the health department?
Well, we're starting tomorrow at 9 o'clock and we're gonna go to 3:45, because then we have the paperwork we have to do, which takes us to after 5.
Is there a way that y'all can sleep that up to be 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, or 24 hours a day, have people doing it? Is that in the process of coming?
It can, but let me explain why we're not looking at that. If we were saying that I could get everybody in this county vaccinated in the next 30 days, we would work 24/7 on this. I'm in this for the long haul. I want to get the general population vaccinated. I'm looking at my team is going to have to continue to work on this into the summer. And I'm going to be begging the county for some support throughout that, because we're just going to burn ourselves out. We have already, from the testing, we've been going at this already for 9 months.
Yeah.
So your point is very valid, and we are looking at doing some weekend ones. We are looking at doing some outside of Perry and Hatchie, just like we did some of the testing.
Yes.
But we are at the initial phase, trying to figure out how we can speed it up. And then we have put a request into the state, just FYI, we put into the state, to see if we can get a team to come in. They bring just a team that does just this, and we would set up a special clinic for them.
Well, you know, you said you got 500 doses last Monday, but you hadn't given those out yet, right? So where you still, when you got 500 more today, you got a bunch of doses, but you hadn't given them out. What I'm saying, if you could speed up the process to get more people in line and filling out the paperwork ahead of time and that kind of thing, and I'm sure the county will work with you anyway to help you with whatever area it takes to speed the process, for what I'm trying to get around to.
And please don't take it that I was saying that I have all the answers. If anybody has any suggestions, we want to get those suggestions. But I do want to say, give us an opportunity. Give us an opportunity. We got to get into this process, pick it apart, find out the quickest way to do it, and then we can implement even faster. My team keeps trying to change things, and I'm telling them, guys, we got to get through 3 or 4 clinics before we really recognize how to speed up the process.
Well, I mean, these other counties, these big counties got those lines of cars, what you see on TV. And we've got plenty of room, sports complex, airport, Force Capitol Hall, we've got room for cars to be making the circle, is what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
When you get ready and we got a overhang, whatever, you know, if you had to put up a tent, the drive-through where they could be out of the sun, the rain, the shot. We'll work with you, as far as I'm concerned, I'll work with you and help you in any kind of way I can.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
It seemed like that there may be a shortage, not of the vaccines, but the workers to go through that administrative part as far as paperwork and making sure that all this is documented. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. I will also tell you, sir, the reason for some of that is because you can say, well, how many people do you got over there? Which I can tell you, we got 23 people.
Right.
Remember, I still got to give out death certificates, birth certificates.
Right.
We still got to provide all of our regular services. You know, if the state tells me, which they're not gonna, but the state could say, stop everything, just vaccinating. And I can go to a 24/7, I mean, I can go to something to that effect. But right now, I still have to see that young lady that needs to come in for her annual exam. I still have to see the young man that is concerned that he might have HIV/AIDS, you know.
So the personnel is the constraint.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To piggyback off of that,
Mhm.
as a suggestion,
Mhm.
could you perhaps have whatever paperwork they have to fill out, have it at some locations or have it so they could come pick up their paperwork anytime? So when they do have their appointment, they've got their paper. A lot of people would have their paperwork done, which would speed the process.
Yes, that's a great suggestion, ma'am, and we have it at the printers right now. We're waiting for it to get our boxes right now, we're just using our copy machine, which if any of you know, that's ridiculously expensive. But we have it at the copiers, and we're waiting for those.
I saw them going along the cars in line, at those places, they were handing the forms, going from one car to the other. And I reckon that they had a pen, they were handing them the form and a pen, and they could fill it out as they were going in the line coming in, you know.
Mhm. Yes,
Is
sir.
there access to any additional funding to where you can call in some outside help where your folks can actually continue on with your day-to-day operations?
At this point, no, and just so you know, when we started 9 months ago with doing the swabbing, doing the testing, that requires someone at the same level, an LPN, RN, MD, someone along that line. We couldn't hire.
No workers in the pool?
There's no workers in the pool. Right now, any of my nurses that work for me could leave tomorrow, have a job tomorrow, and an $18,000 bonus and double their salary. They can walk away any day and make twice the salary that they do with me. So we couldn't find anybody. We can find, which is great, we can find helpers. You know, they can help fill out forms, they can help do all that kind of stuff. They have to go through our process. That in itself takes some work, but we can get through it. But it's finding some of the medical personnel, which is a challenge, you know, because if they have to still have their license. So, you know, we'll have some retired nurses we hear from periodically, but they've not kept up their license. They have to be licensed.
But in this, number of vaccines that's available, there's, I believe we said, 130 or so been administered.
Yeah, somewhere around that, yeah.
So then that means there's still, 670 available.
And we're giving out 70 a day.
I see. So then, with this extra shipment that's came in today, we're not having to turn folks away because we don't have a vaccine, it's because of the time slot with personnel.
Yes, and how we planned it out. We planned it out right now that we have vaccinations clinics going on 4 days a week.
Right.
Through February 1st.
So what I'm saying is, it's a timing and a logistics shortage, not a shortage of the vaccine that's on hand.
It's on hand right now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So for folks that are continuing to call in, they're still able at this point to schedule with the shipment that came in today?
No, they're able to be on a waiting list so that as we open up more clinics, those clinics booked out through February 3rd are completely full.
And will that use up the amount of doses?
That is more than we use out our doses.
Gotcha.
But I am confident that we will get enough to cover those. But I told them to stop February 3rd, because I'm not confident until we get next week's shipment and the shipment after that.
And let me ask, unless there's somebody else, in the completion
Mhm.
of this vaccine being administered, what's the waiting period until that individual is protected, or that vaccination is actively working to prevent them from contracting the virus? And I'm not trying to paint you in a corner, I'm just trying to
Not at all. They're not at all.
timeline beyond,
Sure.
the 28 days after the booster shot.
Okay. Their first dosage, they get protection right then. It is typically about 15 days after you get a vaccination before you have the immunity that you're going to get from that. After that, so 15 days typically after that second one, you'll have the most immunity you're going to have.
Okay. So a 45-day window.
But you do get protection with the very first shot. You just get more protection, a complete protection with the second shot.
14 days after the first?
I'll confirm, I will confirm, and I will send something to everyone on the Board of County Commission, that is the timeframe. That's just what I'm used to with all the others, with the flu vaccine, et cetera.
Now, with this new strain
Mhm.
that they've identified,
Mhm.
what can you tell us about that?
Sure thing. It is not more virulent, meaning it doesn't get people sicker, but it is more contagious, meaning that it's easier to transmit it from person to person.
And that's been part of the state.
Yes, it's been found in the state.
Will this vaccine produce antibodies to that?
Yes, we will cover that. We will cover that. We will cover that. The concern is just what you're just talking about. There's a real concern that people are really tired. They're really, really tired of wearing these. They're really, really tired of not being able to get together. And they're going to start to relax those. Because I heard Uncle Bob got the vaccine, and we're going to have a higher transmission rate. So you will see these numbers on this page that it was put in front of you, you're going to see those numbers going up rather than going down.
Because of the false sense of security.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You see on TV where Walgreens and CVS and that kind of thing supposed to give you vaccination super quick.
I hope.
And I asked him at Walgreens, and he said they hadn't heard a thing, you know.
Yeah, as far as I know, in fact, our Walgreens and CVS's are the ones that are giving that vaccine. Remember I said there's 3 groups that are being vaccinated first? They're the ones that are getting all of the nursing homes and ALFs, adult living facilities. So that's who will be vaccinated them. I gotta be honest, I thought they were gonna be done by now. I got family members in them, and I thought for sure they would be done and already on their second dose. But they have not gotten it yet.
Sound like the whole thing is dragging their feet on the whole process from the beginning.
It is a challenge. None of you asked this question, but I would like to answer one more question that you haven't asked, which is, well, geez, I've heard Moderna and I've heard these other vaccines out there. Right now, the Department of Health is getting Moderna, and part of that reason is so that when I get to next month and I run out of vaccine, because I only needed 20 more doses, I can go to Kim up in Jefferson Madison. I can go to my counterpart over in Franklin County, my counterpart, Dr. Cooksey up in Gadsden County, and say, hey, I need to borrow. And we can go back and forth. And so that's how come we're using that one specifically across the state.
And y'all doing the one that you don't have to keep frozen all the time?
Yeah.
That's what I read.
But it does have a challenge. The challenge with it is that once you defrost it and you put it in the regular refrigerator, it only lasts for 30 days. That's fine. But
How many days?
30. But where the real challenge is that it comes in a vial that has 10 doses. Once you puncture it, it's only good for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And so that's how come everything we're doing in our setup, in our logistics is 10, so that we do not want to waste any vaccine. I don't want to end any day with 7 doses, left in a vial, because that's all gets thrown away. We've not done it. We've set everything up in groups of 10.
In other words, when you open a bottle, start giving them, you keep giving them to people that day till that bottle's empty.
For 6 hours.
For 6 hours.
For 6 hours.
Not every one.
Yes. We have what we do also have said, because we were not able to get all the medical people last week, we did every best we could. We do have some of them on a 15-minute hold call. You want to know that? It is, in other words, because somebody's gonna cancel it. We just know that inevitably somebody's kid's gonna get sick, the dog ran away, the car broke down, they're not gonna be able to make it. So we have a few of them on a, okay, you can be here in 10 minutes, we can give you a shot. But that way, we're not wasting any vaccine. We do not want to waste any vaccine.
Right.
Yes, very much, very much. Is there any other questions about the vaccine, about our plans, how we plan on setting this up, how we're running it, anything, how we're doing our testing, which is still available? Now, that's on an appointment schedule. Anything on any of that? Anything at the health department you want to know about?
The testing sites, are you continuing to set those up in different locations, availabilities of those? Or is that gonna taper away as the vaccine becomes more, I guess, in demand?
Yeah, but right now, we're still doing testing. Anybody who wants to get tested can get tested. They just call and make an appointment. We're doing testing on 3 days a week, and it's at the old hospital next to the health department. You just come basically to the health department, everybody's lined up. You'll see them queued up. And just make an appointment, they get all your information, they're ready to go.
And I want to thank you for coming and spending this time with us, and you've answered a lot of questions, and we appreciate it. We welcome you to come anytime
Thank you so
to
much.
talk to us and keep us up to date.
I will definitely give you all an update. I promise you I'll get back to you about the question about how soon afterward you have the full immunity that you're gonna get. I'll get that answer back to you.
Well, it's just to eliminate that false sense of security. Hey, I
Yes,
got
sir.
it good, you know,
Yes, sir.
and that way we can be safe, not sorry.
Yes, sir. No, I got a good reason, and I should have had that one. I should have had that one.
If there's any way, me or any of the other county commissioners, I'm sure, will go overboard to help you speed this process up in any way, whatever it takes, I feel like. I mean,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
you've got our support.
I will mention to some of the older ones on the council, that I have been contacted by the press. Oh my God, I've been contacted by the press. If any of you would desire to be on television, getting the shot, you might want to get a hold of them. But, you know, we've told them, no, we don't take pictures of clients, that's racism all over the place. So,
You know,
if you want to get on television, there you go.
I appreciate you. You know, and you sort of make me feel good now. My grandmama had sugar when I was 13 years old, and Dr. Parker taught me how to give her a shot. And I believe she lived about 20 years taking a shot from me every morning. Yeah, and so when you tell me that you need to be LPN and you need to be RN and all this kind of stuff, I agree with that. But I just know that there is a way around and some help is on the way, you know.
Yes, sir. I know exactly what
You
you're
know what I'm
saying.
saying?
The only reason, not the only reason, the biggest reason for the nurse, you know, the RN, is that they have to review that paperwork to make sure that the person they're giving the shot to is gonna be okay.
Okay.
You know, so,
Now, you got a nurse reviewing the paperwork, like, you should be given a shot. We can't hide.
that person has to be, that person, every nurse before they give the shot is gonna review their paperwork to make sure. But that doesn't take that much time. That really doesn't take that much time. So, Luana, is there anything else for you, ma'am?
Oh, I think we're good. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Anything else you need? Good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you.
Okay. We're going to number 10. Anyone want to speak to that? The Chamber President from Steve Hatchie and, is that right? Name and telephone number? Address, or whatever?
I'd like to thank you again for amending the ordinance 2020-02 that has put the wheels in motion for the Fuller Crab Festival for 2021. As most of you know, our normal time period for the festival is always President's Day weekend, because it's a 3-day weekend and brings a lot more people to town, and they stay a little bit longer, which is the whole purpose of the festival. I've submitted to Ms. Lawanda the safety plan for the festival, and we had some discussion about the insurance as well, and I had submitted that to her. And we're here tonight for your determination. We're running short on time. This is already January 4th. We've got 6 weeks to pull this off.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Go ahead.
Ms. Wessels, and we've discussed this, we've worked together on that, and we're glad that you guys were able to get an exemption. I know there's some folks from the public who want to speak to this. But if this board was willing to, not cancel this festival, but delay this time event, would that be a possibility?
I guess it's always a possibility. We'd rather not do that, but it's always a possibility.
Always have on a 3-day weekend, which is President's Day.
President's Day weekend.
Sure. But there's still a possibility to pull the festival off if this were delayed 60 to 90 days.
I guess it's better than no festival at all.
Yes, ma'am. And you'd still, your vendors or folks necessary to
I'm
work?
sorry?
Would vendors or the volunteers be available if we were to delay that as well?
We have polled the vendors, and a large number of them said that depending on the date that we would choose would determine whether they can come or not, but they are willing to reschedule if the date fits their schedule.
Right.
As far as volunteers, we haven't had any more discussion with our volunteers, but that would be the next step, I guess.
I'm just thinking about the potential, as we've just heard from Mr. Juarez, for your volunteers to be vaccinated to minimize their risk of exposure, given the number of folks that are in this high-risk category, which is at an 80% death rate for 65 and older folks. So if I understood what he was saying there correctly, and I believe I did, the doses are going to continue to be available as far as vaccination, and it's about a 45-day window before all that's said and done, and those folks are covered by that vaccine. So if we waited to what we felt like was a twofold administration of that vaccine, that means that we should be closer to this number of folks at least having that type of vaccination, which should minimize some of those risks. So that's the reason why I'm more inclined to say that we could delay that festival, have a safer environment in the sense that we're further away from the holidays and that we're closer to a warmer environment, which I don't believe the virus does as well in, and that we would be benefiting from these vaccines being administered. So that's why I'm asking those kind of questions. It's an issue of safeguard for the residents in Steinhatchee, for the workers in the festival, and for those patrons that would want to take part in the festival.
I guess that would depend on how quickly we can get those volunteers vaccinated. We only have 500 doses, and we have a whole county to accommodate.
But I believe in the sense of the Fiddler Festival or the Fiddler Crab Festival, if folks wanted to utilize Dixie County, their health department, and the amount of vaccines they have available, since it's going to be on Taylor and Dixie County, the residents that will be volunteering are helping there. So it would be a likelihood that they might have, and we're not trying to take away from Dixie County, but for those residents that are there that would be more comfortable in those areas.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I hear what he's saying, but from what I understand, y'all have people to come to that festival from all over, and it's grown to the magnitude that you probably have people from out of state and far away to come, including maybe some of your vendors and visitors. So it's not just Taylor County people and Dixie County people. With what he's saying, you got to assume then that all these people from all these other places are going to be vaccinated too. How do we know that? How do we know that they're going to be vaccinated? And if the majority of the participants are in that younger age group, which I think probably it would be, because most older people are not going to go because of the fear. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know what the answer is, but I do.
The solution to that problem is just what you said earlier, Ms. Eagle, is that if you don't want to go, you don't have to go. And I understand your point that we will not be seeing Ms. Eagle at the Fiddler Crab Festival. And The other comment that I want to make briefly to our new commissioners, and I just know you weren't in on when we did this. This is our 13th year this year. And the reason the Fiddler Crowd Festival began, which I and Pam were one of the 5 people who created the festival. And we did that because our businesses couldn't stay alive. And we were going to close. I was closing my restaurant in January and February because there's no business. So when Ms. Spiegel says that it's for money, yes, it's for money. It's to keep us alive, to pay the employees that live in our community so that they can feed their families. And so it just goes on and on. The whole idea of moving it, I understand what you were saying, Commissioner, on moving it to another time. But moving it, adjusting it to another time, kind of
Defeats it.
it defeats the purpose. And it completely defeats the purpose. Because when the people aren't there, the people aren't there, and it's January, February. And we created something to happen. This 13 years, and we brought tax dollars to this county. The festival has brought tax dollars to this county. And I agree with you as far as people are adults. If they don't want to come, they don't have to come. Somehow we come up with masks. We are talking about adults that know to put your mask on, use a sanitizer. I mean, surely we can do that. I'm concerned more about a fellow that just left here that tells me he's had 500 vials and he hadn't got them all given yet. That worries me, because you take a private industry where we're a private company. If you told me I couldn't get out 500 shots, he should be telling me tonight that he's out of medicine. I'm sorry, I don't agree with him at all. That's where our problem is, not Fiddler Crowd Festival.
Let's talk about that. I'm Andy Latimer. I actually bought Jim's company in March. So we closed on the business on March 2nd. We shut down for a remodel, opened for 1 day, and then we're shut down for 8 weeks by the government. Our economic impact last year from COVID, 39% reduction in our overall income. Shutting down the boat ramps affected us. Shutting down people coming here affected us. But let me tell you something. People coming to Steinhatchee, you're right. They're from Georgia. They're from Alabama. They're from all over Florida. And they're still there. They own houses there. They pay tax dollars there. And they come there to support what's going on down in Steinhatchee. A decision to not put this permit, let me tell you what it effectively does. The Fiddler Crowd Festival comprises 65% of our total revenue in February. 65% of our total revenue in February. Let me put that on par. That's July 4th. The only 2 weekends that compare that are the Fiddler Crowd Festival on July 4th. Moving the date, I appreciate your suggestion, but moving the date will weaken the effect. You push that down the line into March or April or May, and there will be businesses that do not survive. I have waitresses, bartenders, kitchen workers, hotel cleaners that are sitting there counting on that income that comes off of it. That whole town counts on the income that comes off of it. And you can look at it from a standpoint and say, okay, is there a safe way to do a festival? Yes. It's an outdoor festival. It is spread across a massive area. My other home's in St. Pete. St. Pete opened a beautiful new pier. Look at it. It's gorgeous. $100 million pier. It's open, and thousands of people are visiting it every day. It's spaced out, socially distanced, wide open walking areas, just like Steinhatchee. And no one from the county there, from the city there, is saying, no, stop. Because they recognize that business has to continue. Life has to continue. And to your point earlier, you don't have to come. In Bar Harbor, Maine, I was up in Bar Harbor in the last year, right as regulations were hitting there. They lost all of their cruise ship traffic. 5,000 people a day. You know what Bar Harbor did? They put out masks on every street corner and said, come to Bar Harbor anyway. and people came and they wore masks, and they went through processes and they kept apart, and everything was okay. In city after city after city, everything is okay. A decision to not allow this festival it's overreaching, and it's overly cautious. And when it comes to, when you start to think about liabilities, which is your other big concern, am I wrong? You don't want to get sued. Liabilities come down to the end
It's
of
not,
the day.
listen, I don't want to sue you, but I don't want to subject the residents to Kankakee that I've overwhelmingly heard from that are not only just afraid and that are not going to leave town and not going to go to the festival, but what they're going to be subjected to really, because if we decide to plow forward to go ahead and have this festival, they're going to be subjected to a mandate lockdown order upon themselves to.
Are you going to close Walmart?
I don't, the county
Are you gonna
doesn't,
close Walmart?
as last time I checked, Taylor County doesn't own Walmart.
No, but are you
We
going to
are
close?
liable for the decisions made for the right of ways that Taylor County does own, which is where this festival is held at.
So anywhere that we gather, if what you're saying to me is anywhere that we gather publicly at all should be ended today. If you go by that philosophy, and I hear what you're saying, I understand where you're going with it. You're not open to a liability here that's how are you going to get sued for a flu, man?
Right, so.
You can't track where it came from.
Certainly, I understand that, and if you want to finish, go ahead and make the points you need to make.
I mean, at the end of the day, what we're facing here is you're talking about, you're making decisions on our economic viability. You're not hurting, yes, you're hurting the businesses. And yes, you said earlier, I heard a comment that the businesses want to make money. We're not talking about making money, we're talking about surviving. You want to see the decision you make today on whether to pass that permit or not, allow us to have a festival in an open air environment. That's not what the gentleman spoke about earlier, tightly compact spaces. I agree with him. Throwing a concert in a tightly compact space with a roof over it and a little box with people with no masks all tight together, that's a bad idea. Throwing a festival in a city that's spread out over how many acres? Are you kidding me? There's 50 feet between vendors. You guys have all been to the Fiddler Crab Festival, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm as afraid as anybody, of getting this virus and my family and friends getting the virus. But, I keep thinking about one other thing. We've got federal government, we've got a president, and we've got a governor who has not said, close it down.
You're right.
They have opened everything up. I don't know how we can sit here and say, well, we're going to close the organized sports, we're going to close every festival, we're going to do this and that and the other. Again, you're on your own. If you don't want to go, don't go.
But I think we can all be responsible.
And again, I'm as afraid as anybody of getting this, and until I know that the majority of Americans have been vaccinated, I'm not going to feel good whether it's next weekend or 3 months from now or 6 months from now.
Right, so when's that going to be that we go back to normal life? Like my kids play volleyball, right? And they do organized sports in St. Petersburg right now. Every single day. You know what we do? We go into the gym, we wear a mask, we check our temperatures on the way in, and we go and play sports. And the parents sit spread out in certain areas, and we separate from each other, and we watch the kids play sports, and we cheer for them, and we have a great time. It's safe. We all sign a waiver that says, we understand the liability of this, we understand the risk, because we already have to sign that for them to participate in sports. We're already signing something that says, I understand the dangers of the environment that they're put in. That don't think you should worry about in 1 second. Just set the protocols in place. And it's the same thing for the Fiddler Crab Festival.
I want to clarify one thing, if I may. When I said, Jim, that the business want to make money, that was not derogatory. I understand the businesses want to make money.
I said that.
And the people want to go have fun, and that wasn't meant to be derogatory.
I appreciate that.
I'm most concerned about my employees who depend on this and depend on the income from the Fiddler Crab. You have to understand, it's the doldrums down there. For 4 months, it is dead. They are scraping by, barely surviving. And the Fiddler Crab Festival is the thing that puts money in their pocket and allows them to get through the cold.
If I could just clarify and make sure everyone understands, when we're discussing liability and insurance coverage, normally we require a certificate of insurance from the chamber, whoever is holding the event, and the board is named as an additional insured. I just want to make sure that you understand that the insurance policy for the chamber, and probably any other insurance policy you try to purchase right now for an event, has an exclusion for communicable diseases, which means COVID would be excluded as far as coverage. However, through Florida League of Cities, we have coverage for COVID. It is not excluded on the county's policy. Just so everybody, I just want to clarify that.
I spoke to the League of Cities today, and yes, that they do offer policies as such.
Right. Oh, you spoke to them about our policy?
I spoke to them about generalized policy.
Okay, yes. So we are covered, but if there is a claim and the chamber's policy has an exclusion, then the financial responsibility as far as increased premiums, if there was a claim and there was a claim paid or a settlement, then that responsibility would ultimately go back to the taxpayers.
I just like to say, I do realize this is good for the businesses, good for the community, good for the county. I do know that this virus has been increasing since, it just started increasing. It's been on an increase since April. And we just recently held supposed to be a 5,000 folks mud bog. I think that probably, and I'm all about the mud bog, and I'm all about people doing their business, but I'm sure, what I understand, this mud bog probably ended up with 10,000+ people there.
Yeah, they just did one.
So, and I'm good with the business, the people that hold their events. And, I think, just by postponing this Fiddler Crab Festival, we're gonna end up losing the vendors, losing the people. So, I'm okay with moving forward.
I'm ready to do it, like Mr. Dent said, everybody pretty much said.
Yeah.
I'll move forward with it, too.
I'd just like to say, I've heard from, quite a number of these individuals that are in this high risk category, and the residents of Steinhatchee are not willing to support this festival at this time. They're not comfortable with it, they're not safe. They have expressed that very emphatically. So it's not just about the fact that it impacts the business. While I can respect that, I've reached out and spoken with multiple businesses in Steinhatchee about the possibility of delay. We look at a 60 to 90 day delay. A host of those businesses say it will not cost them to wait. And so my position on that is it will help those individuals that are in this compromised position, at least afford them the possibility to get this vaccine to have the coverage. It's not about just the tourists, though I respect them coming. It's about those individuals that are not gonna, just don't go to the festival, because they're home. So we're gonna ask them not to go home, because that's where they're at, that's where they're gonna stay. Then they're gonna be forced to deal with the after effects of the profitability measure that's gonna be imposed on them of what might be 5,000 to 20,000 folks that descend upon Steinhatchee. So my position on that is at this point in time, and I'm prepared to make a motion to delay approving this permit unless there's any more discussion for 60 to 90 days.
I don't have anything else. You have a caller,
Okay. Caller,
7132.
7132.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
This is Danielle Norwood. I own the Seahag Marina in Steinhatchee, Florida. I just had some points I wanted to point out. I know you guys pretty much made a decision, but but I'd like to say that at least, or very nearly 50% of my income, our income, comes from this one weekend, and that, you know, I still have to be able to pay my employees, so it will be detrimental to me. And, you know, March and April and May, the weather gets so much better, my business is so much better, that February was the reason we started this was to actually, you know, keep our businesses alive. And then, I'd also like to reiterate that, you know, it will be outside, and it is still your choice to come. And I also wanted to maybe point out that we could possibly put signs up for the whole harmless with, you know, an example of, by being here, you hold us harmless. So it's just some thoughts I had while I was listening.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Is there another call?
No, sir.
Okay. What do I?
Mr. Chair, before you go on, we have a letter from a resident in Steinhatchee that you may want to share that, just for the record. Here's mine, if you want.
Ms. Rhoda Morian, we would like to ask you not to permit the above festival based on concern that it may increase our risk of the COVID-19 virus in Steinhatchee. The numbers are in response to a poll taken by 3 of our churches yesterday. 1 Methodist and 2 Baptist churches polled 146. No postponement. It was 6 yes and 146 no. We are very concerned about the virus and would appreciate your consideration. Thank you. Rhonda Morian, Riverside Drive, 715, Steinhatchee.
Miss Rhoda couldn't make it tonight?
I don't know. She sent the letter.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, we talked about it, and my position is still the same. If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. I don't go to Steinhatchee for the festival. Never been, and never felt welcome. But I'm telling you what, I'm willing to make a decision. You make a conscious decision of what's best for you. And I'm not going.
I promised you a tour around Steinhatchee when you did come, though.
Okay, pardon?
I said, I did promise you a tour.
Yeah, you did. I don't like to experience that either. But anyway, what do we have a motion? Accept it or not?
I think Commissioner Newman has made a
What do you
motion.
think?
My motion is to delay this permit by 60 to 90 days.
Okay, do I have a second? So we die from the lack of a second. Do I have another motion?
I'll make a motion to issue the permit for the Fiddler Crab Festival.
You have a motion?
I'll second that.
Been motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
No.
4-1.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. Come on down if you want to. We'll make it safe.
Okay. We'll go to 10, 12. Board consider request by Waste Pro, USA.
Okay.
Okay. Who's to speak to that?
Mr. Mitchell, with Waste Pro.
Yes.
Yes. I believe you can go ahead and make your request.
The request is just to approve our CPI as the contract.
You just, I guess in January 2020, you just done your contract, I guess, with the county.
Sure.
And it's my understanding, maybe there was like maybe a 9, close to 10% increase on that contract?
Correct.
Gotcha. What was the increases when was your last increase prior to January 2020?
2013 or 14?
2013?
It was 14 or 15, somewhere around there, I think, when the contract was renewed. So it must have been 2015, because right, the contract was from 2009 to 2014, and then had a 5-year renewal, correct? And so just at the time of the renewal, you did receive an increase at that point. And that was that, do you remember how many? Was it 1%?
I think it was like 1 point something, 1.1, 1.2
For a year or just,
for the year.
and this one is 1.6 you asking for now?
It's just, the CPI is based on our contract.
I didn't know the commercial world has been hit pretty hard over the course of the last year. And I noticed.
It's double here.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I just know there's maybe minor, but it just, just increasing their wage pro dollars. Every dollar counts for everyone. I know the same for you. I don't know that we need to look at an increase. I mean, would we be opposed to looking at this next year versus this year?
No, sir, I can't afford to do that.
You can't do what now?
I can't afford to not have these increases. I mean, we went through a 10-year period where we didn't have much at all. And then I was forced to make it up in my pricing, and I can't do it now. I've not provided brand new trucks, which I did, brand new equipment, which I had. And I'm not catching any breaks. I don't get anything discounted to me at all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what does 1.6% equate to for us?
So the board this is not a cost to the board. This is the rate structure for the commercial customers of Waste Pro.
Oh,
So it's an increase in the rates to the
If the
commercial.
average rate's $100, it's gonna go up.
it's $100 to the customer a
If
year?
the average rate is $100, it's gonna go up 1.6%.
Be $1.06.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
are
I've
the
never had it. I've never
customers
had any
happy
numbers.
with this?
I have not received any feedback on any of this as far as prices and stuff. Even in the past, they've never came forward and called or anything like that. So it's never been a real issue.
James? You okay? Good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion?
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Y'all be safe, be careful.
All right. Looks like we're going to 13, right? Mr. Marty Tompkins. And the sheriff is here to discuss equipment needed at dispatch.
Yes, sir. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Sheriff Badgett, our control center basically is called a Zetron Center, has completely went out of dispatch. This is how we dispatch calls to the units in the field. And it's not just to the sheriff's deputies, it's to the city police officers, city firefighters, county fire, ambulance, everybody. That's the dispatch center. Currently, and we cannot get replacement parts for it. It's that old. So it's going to require a replacement.
Is that the one in the emergency?
In the EOC. Yes, sir. Basically, it's a bank of computers and stuff that transfers all this information to the actual console
that then allows the dispatchers through their headsets to issue the call.
How do you operate without it?
I'm sorry?
How do you operate without it?
We're using handheld radios right now, but we can't, the problem with that is we can't page out the fire departments. None of that system's working now.
So it's not efficient, for sure.
Well, it's not gonna hold up.
What's the age on that system?
I think I told Commissioner Fiegel it was 20. I was told today that it's actually just 12 years old. But just, when you're talking about electronics, 12 years is a long time.
I want to make,
Go ahead.
tell us who all utilizes that system, who benefits from it. Tell me
Every emergency agency in the county, fire, EMS, law enforcement, emergency management, the city fire department, the city police department.
Forestry,
I'm sorry,
forestry.
not forestry. Forestry has their own dispatch center.
So, have you spoken with the city to see if they will help us on this, since they use it too? I don't know why we should bear the burden of the whole cost of this.
So I spoke with Mr. Brown, last week, I believe, and asked him if he would consider taking to city council a request to split the cost 3 ways. The sheriff possibly paying a third, the county paying a third, and the city paying a third, which would equate to about $46,000, right, Marty?
Yeah, a little less than that now. They did talk, today they took $1,900 off the quote, so the final quote's $134,388.
And he was not able to answer that, but, our request was that he take it to his board and, to the city council and ask if they would be willing to share in the cost. Now, the problem is, we need to replace this ASAP. I don't know, can we wait for an answer from the city council, or do we need to move?
I think their meeting is on the 12th.
Well, could you get by with a handheld till then, or?
I mean, we can, we need to order the equipment anyway. The equipment's gotta be ordered in, so it's gonna take a few days for the equipment to come in, so.
What about the install?
I'm sorry?
Installation.
The installation's included in all this.
How long will that take?
Probably about 3 days. I think that's what they estimated was 3 days.
So you could be if it's 4 days to get here and 3 days to install, you're still talking a week.
Correct.
And you got to wait over a week to figure out if the city's gonna put their part into it too, what you said.
It'll be at their council meeting, yes, or on the 12th, if they make a decision on the 12th.
You're gonna have to order it. I mean, it's something that you're gonna have to have.
Yes, ma'am, we have to have it.
I still, you gotta do what you gotta do, which means.
And it's really a sole source provider because we use the Slurs radio system.
Yeah.
And so Williams is their provider here, and it's also on the state contract.
So you're gonna probably have to go ahead and order and I think that, we should at least hold out and see if the city will help with this. And I'm wondering, should, we have somebody to go there when they have their meeting, or Luanda, maybe?
Marty, why don't you and I go to the meeting
Okay.
and present it to them and ask them, if they would be willing to.
Okay, we'll do that.
And then you go ahead and do what you gotta do, obviously. Somebody's gonna pay for it.
Okay.
Where will we try to get this funding from?
Well, let me clarify. Commissioner Fiegel, are you saying that you want us to move forward in ordering the equipment and attempt to obtain reimbursement for part of it from
Well,
the
I don't
city?
know if I was sitting over there at the city council, I'd say, well, y'all ordered it, it looks like you better take care of it, so thank you for coming, but, we don't have any money. Or, but I'm just saying, I'm not telling him what to do. It's just that he knows what he has to do. But I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting we try to get some help from some of the people that use it too.
So my suggestion would be that whatever portion it is that we end up funding, that we take from general fund reserve for capital projects. And if you'll authorize us to, my guess would be that you would authorize us to present this to the city, and based upon what the city's answer is, then we'll know what portion the board will fund and what portion the sheriff's office will fund, and you'll authorize me to transfer funds from reserve for capital to make that purchase.
Yeah, and they have a capital improvement, plan also over there.
And there's a possibility being all the holidays over with, they couldn't go ahead and have an emergency meeting and give us an answer on this thing? I mean, is that something you could talk to Mr. Brown about?
Sure. I can
I
ask.
mean, it might save 2 weeks out of this.
Yes, sir.
You know, if we could. I mean, they right here, they could have them a meeting, you know?
It is the emergency communications for them too, so it is kind of urgent, so maybe
I like that idea.
Yeah, they need to step up to the plate and do whatever it takes, you know? And I know if they don't step up to the plate, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
The only thing they can say is yes or no, it doesn't hurt to ask them.
That's right.
I don't think they can say no if they use the system. If we got an opening, are we obligated to do it for them?
They actually pay half of the dispatch cost as far as the personnel. So they reimburse the sheriff's department for half. That's all included in our budget, that reimbursement comes back to the county because you guys front the money up front, so.
Go to the city. You going with them, LaWanda?
Do we have any precedent 12 years ago that they might have shared the cost in this replacement equipment?
I haven't found any. The only contract I've found at all between us and the city is for them to provide the personnel cost, half the personnel cost.
And was that the agreement?
That was the one you sent me today, was done in 1995, was the original contract, I believe, so.
The personnel cost, just what it is, that's not nothing to do with the equipment, so I mean, that equipment's above personnel cost, so there's no reason that they should.
And like I said, they benefit from the use of this equipment.
Does it benefit the county going ahead with the 1/3 from the county at this point, or just wait? Should we wait?
I would respectfully ask that you authorize us to transfer funds, whatever we need, from whether it be 1/3 or 2/3 or whatever we end up. I mean, I can certainly advise the board after the city council meeting, but if you don't make a decision on how to fund what ends up being our portion, then I won't be able to move forward with the purchase because it's not budgeted. So we will have to ask you for permission to move funds from reserves to an operating account.
Which also means that we would have to come back to a special meeting with you guys after we go to the city to tell you whether they said yes or no, and then how to fund it.
We can do that, but what about the ones that sales tax that's, there for capital, improvements? Could that come out of that?
Well, that 1 cent sales tax is not used for general fund capital improvement. It's only used for, solid waste, fire, public works capital. So we use general fund capital line item for general fund capital purchases. So I believe that would be the appropriate account. Is that not correct, Gary?
Right.
Yeah. We would use, and we have a healthy balance in that reserve account.
Okay, so why don't we do this, if whatever the.
Go ahead.
But why don't we, you ask, Mr. Taylor, and he can ask the, city council to have a special meeting because we're in an urgent situation with our 911 system. And it's something that doesn't need to wait until they have their meeting on the 12th. And if they say they're not going to do that, then we're kind of, we probably need to do what we have to do. And at that point in time, I don't know what kind of results we'd get going and asking after the fact,
Right.
But what do y'all think?
I think it's got to be done no matter what. And I mean, I'd rather go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and let her get the funding coming, or move wherever it needs to be moved. We wouldn't have to wait another week on that. and try to get them to go ahead and have an emergency meeting and answer, but, I mean, we got to do it, what I'm saying, and I'm for getting the money lined up to do it, you know, we ain't got to spend the money, if they do come up with the whole amount, we could just, if they kick in their 1/3, that'd be fine too.
Is there a chance that this is a percentage, or does always have to be paid for this to be ordered? It's $134,000.
They just require a purchase order.
So there
So
was
you give them a
time
purchase
that
order.
we're supposed to have that meeting to either agree or disagree to meet our third requirement or request.
You know, like that'd be enough time if they take. If you do it tomorrow's what, 5th? And it's gonna be on 12th, that's 7 days.
So we still can make a motion contingent upon their contribution to move those funds from the general fund. And we would just need to move, what, 2/3 at this point?
Is that your motion?
It is.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Uh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed, the motion was to,
Motion is to move those funds from the general fund.
okay, the general fund reserve account.
Yes.
You gonna move 2/3 of it or the whole amount?
How much was on?
Well, I would caution you that I don't know, just because we asked for a third, it could be more, it could be less.
Yeah.
So I think that,
It has to be the whole amount.
I would,
Move the whole amount by the time.
And they can reimburse
We can have
Yeah.
information if they're gonna be able.
I'm fine with that.
You'll be covered.
Yeah, I apologize, it's bad news, I really do, but it is old equipment, and it is life-saving, so, equipment.
You know, this board understands
Yes.
that this is something that we have to protect our citizens. And so,
Like I said, I mean, the city benefits as much from it as we do.
they benefit, and if they decide to do the right thing, which is to help out, that's great. Thank you. I'm sorry you had to wait so long.
No, that's all right.
Mr. Greg Mullins, Parks and Recreation Manager.
There you go.
All right.
Ms. Luan asked me to come in and kind of give you an update on the sports complex and what's going on out there and what we're looking forward to doing in the near future. Right now, the complex is open to individuals and parents that want to come out and practice. If teams come out and want to practice, we have asked them to give us a COVID plan and to ask them to sign a no harm clause if they're going to be in close contact as a team, not if they're up there with just their parent or their grandparent and it's just one child or very few children. I have a projected outline season here for my baseball league that's coming up we'll start signing up in the near future if it gets approved. We have a couple of soccer teams out there practicing, but they have also signed a no harm and give us a COVID plan as well. So we're trying to get as many kids out there as we can. The walkers are out there, but it's outside and they're socially distanced. So we just want to get some more activity out there with the kids and the sports going on with your approval. But these are the projected dates for the baseball program that our county's in charge of. Most of the other sports are parent-driven, or they're run by an outside entity. This is the one that we're in charge of, the county's responsible for. But we want to start the registration on January the 6th, which is 2 days from now.
That's for baseball?
Yes, ma'am. We wanted to wait until you guys gave us the go-ahead to start a registration. I've already got the forms printed out. If I got to change something, we can do that, but we wanted to wait till we figured out after listening to the health department and see what we could do to get the sports started. The coaches meeting will be February the 4th. That would be 3 days after the registration ends. That would be me with the coaches. They have to sign their application. We have to do background checks and all those things. Shortly thereafter, we would have a umpires meeting on February the 11th. After our player draft, which will be February the 8th, the coaches will meet with those particular parents of the kids that are on their team. Practice would then start on February the 9th. The games would start March the 1st. our season would end on April the 22nd. And that would give every team 10, 12, 14 games, depending on how the weather falls, any cancellations, or something else happened with what we've been talking about all night, the COVID stuff. And every league that we have to have 4 teams in that league so they can have a tournament, a county-wide tournament. We have to have enough teams to play in the tournament, pick enough players, the way we do our teams and our all-stars and things like that. That's kind of it. I mainly wanted to ask for maybe some advice or some pointers of what we should do per our social distancing, coaching wearing masks. I've spoken to surrounding county recreation departments, some big counties, some small cities, and every single one of them I've spoken to, they make every participant sign a no harm. Some of them go through the county attorney, some of them go through the recreation department. Some of them have limited capacity, like Gainesville and some other place, Alachua County, Marion County, they give kids like tickets, and they give that kid 1 ticket or 2 tickets, and that's how many parents or grandparents they can bring to the ball game. Which a lot of people are doing the capacity thing. They're following the state governor's guidelines. I've looked at USSSA guidelines. I've looked at Triple Crown, the organization that we're through, Babe Ruth. They're starting to lighten up their load a little bit on all their guidelines. But what we're asking right now is just practice time. Ours are even lighter than everybody's in our surrounding counties. So we're trying to get the kids back out there, but we're trying to do it safely.
What about PSA?
Well, I'm waiting on Yancey to get a hold of me. He's got a team out there practicing, but they had a meeting, I think, last week or the week before the holidays, and he was supposed to get back to me.
You know, I'm just gonna tell you, again, it's just like with the Fiddler Festival. You're on your own.
Yes.
If you don't want your child to play, and if you don't want to be there, don't be there. It's just like with school, homeschooling or not. And to me, it's the same thing. Open it up, let's have sports. If you want to go and risk it, go on. If you don't, stay at home. And as far as limiting how many relatives you can bring, I wouldn't do that.
As far as the waivers, I've talked to the soccer group, they run the league out there now, and they're going to Tallahassee and playing, they're going to Wakulla and playing, and they don't sign anything.
Mm-hmm.
They go in and play ball, and they would like to play a weekend here, but, I don't think there's clarity that they can. And I think that's what we want to even clarify, if we're not signing waivers or harmless deal there, I think I'm okay with us maybe posting the DOH guidelines on the board at the entrances to the complexes, because it's just a recommendation. At the end of the day, like Commissioner Beagle said, that there's no government entity that's got us regulated in any way or fashion. So I think posting the
Go ahead and finish.
So, posting the recommendations at the entrances, it's the same kids that go to school, and they're not signing a waiver to sit 4 foot apart in a classroom. So, as far as the parents and the fans coming, they're pretty well all spread out along the fence line anyway, so I don't see a need in us regulating how many family members can come watch any individual play, but I do want to see us clarify the leagues and them being able to play. And I'm just talking about soccer right now because that's just what's happening. But even with baseball and softball, and allowing the other communities to come in and be able to play in our complex.
I agree.
I'm all for that myself. Hoping to get it.
We need to obviously just post the recommendations. I'm okay with the recommendations being posted, but we're not signing anything going to their location. They're just walking in and, talking to Yancey, they're just walking in and playing ball. They would like to come here, and I think it would benefit us to allow these groups to come here.
Just to clarify what our process has been, up to this date is, any organized team, the leagues or the teams in our own baseball program. What we have been asking for is a safety plan that's forwarded to the Department of Health and approved or changed, and then the hold harmless. So and that's exactly what we're looking for, is some guidance if you want us to continue the process that we've been using or not.
Well, I mean, how you gonna enforce all that if you, even if they give you a safety plan, to me, it's worthless. It's totally worthless. But that's just,
I understand.
You know, I think it's probably of each individual. If you give it to them, they take it and say, okay, that's, we take you for face value. And if you get out there and see something different, hey.
At the end of the day, the coaches and the parents are gonna be responsible for this. I mean, for what they want, I mean, like I said, the parents that's not gonna put their kids in there is probably the same ones that their kids are not enrolled in the school. They're doing the virtual, online schools, so.
I think they'd be better off playing ball than back in the neighborhood anyway. I think they need to get into sports as much as they can, and I'm about it. Just open the gate and let it go.
I think what these guys need is clarity and, you know, being able to move on and maybe post the recommendations at the gate if that's
I
what
like
they want.
that.
I think we have them posted all over the complex at this point.
Yeah, the CDC and
Yes.
the local ones we have everywhere, on the doors of the bathrooms, on the concession stands, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
I'll make a motion, if everybody's good, I'll make a motion to open the complex up with the guidelines posted at the gates of the complexes.
Second.
And,
Motion second, all in favor? You got it?
Okay, can I ask a question? T-Crab, when, and I know you're on that, when is T-Crab gonna start again? When, where, and what time?
Well, we had one before the holiday, and we were gonna have one next Monday at 12 o'clock noon in this office. In this
Monday at 12?
building. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we'll be advertising for another member, probably this next week, because I think is there one or two openings? Two openings on the board. So we'll.
I've got some people that may be interested and maybe y'all do too. But I think that that's something that needs to be alive and moving forward, you know. So I'll let the people that I think are interested know. I want to say to you, you have done a fantastic job and are doing a fantastic job. I'm really glad to have you here. The sports complex always looks good anymore.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate opening it up, that's all. Yes, sir. You got anybody have any other questions for me? All right, thank y'all, have a good night.
All right, we go to number 15. County attorney item.
The Lakey versus Taylor County Board of County Commissioners, there's set a mediation in the case. It'll be done by video on April the 2nd of 2021, beginning at 9 o'clock. And I request that one of y'all, meaning Commissioner, appear there with me at that mediation.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I would like to nominate Commissioner Newman, if he's willing to do that. He was not here, and he wasn't a part of everything that went on, so I think he could go there with,
Good open mind?
yes, and he doesn't have a history like some of us do, and I just think that he would be a good candidate for that if you're willing.
I'll have to check my schedule about that, Commissioner, I might have a conflict.
Well, then, if you can't do it, then, Commissioner English, would you be willing to do it?
What's the date again?
April the 2nd.
April the 6th. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. He be the alternate. He be the alternate.
He would be, if he can, he will, and if this board agrees to that, and if he can't, then, Commissioner English.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that?
I'll make the motion that, that Commissioner Newman is the, commissioner that attends the mediation. And if he's unable to, that Commissioner English will.
That's a motion. I second. Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Prior to that, I'll get in touch with you, Mike, and I'll go over the mediation process. And if you can check and see if you've got a conflict, and if not, I would go over with Jamie. It just, takes about an hour or so to go over the process and also what I think the position ought to be, although we're going to be governed by the insurance company.
Okay.
Just let me know. Okay, we got some time.
County Administrator.
Okay, I think we're on item number 18. This is a request to extend the agreement with Government Services Group until April 1st. This would be for them to provide further consulting services related to the CARES Act funding. So if the board chooses not to extend the CARES Act program, this would allow them to tie up any loose ends with us and just to continue offering the administrative and consulting services for an additional 3 months. There is a not to exceed amount. We have not exceeded the $288,000, so there is funding available. And I would ask the board to approve this to help us.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Is number 19 now?
Item number 19. So on December 27th, I believe, we received word that the FFCRA, which is the Family First Coronavirus Relief Act, extension did not include the emergency paid sick leave and the emergency family medical leave portion, which basically for us means that we are not required as employers to extend the availability of this leave after December 31st. What I would ask the board to consider is, I really just need guidance from the board. If you wish to extend this program for, I would say, another 90 days, for anybody who may become sick with COVID or is quarantined for exposure to COVID or has a family medical leave related type situation because of COVID. The original act was an unfunded federal mandate that we supplement our employees' leave balance by up to 80 hours. And so if an employee has been out because they're under quarantine or because they test positive for COVID as an example, they have up to 80 hours additional paid leave. And we have not replaced those positions. Really, the effect of this has been a reduced workforce. We've just had to cover those positions until people came back. So as of today, I believe we've had 35 or 36 employees who have utilized this, the provisions under this act in order to quarantine or to recover from COVID, most of them. So out of, about 100 people, we've only had 35 or either 35 or 36 people who have utilized this program. So,
Go ahead. Just when you get finished.
So the consideration I would ask you to give is whether you'd like to extend the program in order to allow people who are being quarantined or are ill with COVID to continue these benefits for them, or if you would like to not extend the program.
Are you asking us to extend it, or what?
No, I'm asking for guidance, honestly.
Okay, so again, you know, we have the federal government, we have a president, and we have a governor who has not, embraced this. I don't know why they haven't, but they haven't embraced this. So the people, the employees, they have sick time, right?
Employees, they may or they may not. And
I mean, in general, they have
In
sick
general,
time
they
and
do.
they use sick time for when they're sick.
They do. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
So with this, I guess 14 days or,
It's 80 hours.
or 80
It's
hours.
part of the original program.
I know the state, you know, just what the state's done, is they kind of just, I mean, allowed their employees to, they more or less just give them another 2 weeks of vacation and let them use it. And if they, even if they didn't have anything to do with the virus, and then a month later, they've used that time and they contracted the virus, but they don't get any pay. I mean, we don't run under those guidelines, do we?
No, sir. No, so we have, for any employee who has been quarantined or who has had symptoms of COVID and seeking a medical diagnosis, or who has tested positive for COVID, they have had access to these additional 80 hours for full-time employees. And I think the logic behind the original act was that if you gave people the benefit of those hours, then they would stay home and they would not come to work and spread COVID. And I will say, you know, that is a concern that I have, is that if people do not have any leave time available, that they may come to work. Or it may be that if they don't want to use their vacation time, or if they don't want to use their sick time, even if they are quarantined, they may choose to come to work.
But, you know, I hear what you said, that the purpose of it was, but for some reason, they're not embracing that anymore. They're not buying into that anymore.
Correct.
The state, federal government, or the president, they're done with that.
Yes, ma'am. This was not extended as part of the HEROES Act at the last minute, and we thought it would be, but it was not.
No discussion?
But this is able to be quantified through Taylor County as emergency paid sick leave. Because of symptoms or quarantine or
Yes.
whatever justifiable reason, not just because I want to go on vacation.
And that's what we have done so far. So we have required our employees to show us a quarantine order from the Department of Health. Or, you know, a note from their doctor. I mean, they have been asked to justify the time off in order to have this leave accessible to them.
And so far, we've been able to cover that with different responsibilities or personnel that aren't displaying those symptoms.
Or, well, I would have to say in some of our departments, it's, you know, if they constantly have people out quarantining or sick, it's, you know, it's a reduced output. For other departments, you know, we've had to utilize other staff members to cover duties and responsibilities. And, you know, we've been stretched pretty thin, but we've been able to make it work.
Have you had any abuse? Because I know I was just in the last few days talking with someone from a large corporation, and not locally, that they had got to the point that they had so many people saying I was exposed or I was around, so they could get 2 weeks of not having to use their own time. And it became such a problem until they've had to take stricter measures because of that. Have you had abuse here?
It's possible. We don't have any way of validating whether someone has, you know, has been justifiably ill or not ill. I think that everyone's tried to be very cautious, So if there's any indication that someone could be COVID positive, I think that the advice from their caregiver is to stay home. And
I was
so,
sitting in the truck next to somebody, they'd taken 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, I'm like, well, I've been exposed too. Now I'm gonna go fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
But there is, you know, whatever the board ends up doing, but there is reimbursement for these.
Not now.
No, this is an unfunded
There
mandate.
was one time.
No, there are tax credits available to some organizations, but that would not apply in our case. So we're using budgeted funding, you know, in our normal budget to pay out these additional hours. And we have been since, I believe, April 1st when this started, to December 31st.
I think they need to use a vacation or sick time.
What about the first 5 days? What's the quarantine now? They done moved from 14 to 7?
I think it's 14 if you have been exposed, but you are not positive. If you're positive, the quarantine time is less than if you're not, than if you're just exposed, because it could take additional time for you to start having symptoms or testing positive. So we're having people who are quarantining for 14 days, as, you know, I mean, there's usually 1 or 2 employees, you know, that has been on quarantine since it started.
Is it possible to allow 40 hours versus 80 hours?
You could.
Yeah.
Because this would be, you know, this would be our version of the emergency paid sick leave act.
We're gonna be so responsible for the
Yes.
cost.
Yes.
Which could be offset by reassigning responsibilities or covering those, like we've been doing.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You wanna make that a motion? Make it 40 hours? Get it, Lee?
Motion.
Motion
What is
second.
the motion?
Like the 40-hour availability instead of 80 hours on emergency paid sick leave.
And then after that, they take their own
Yeah.
sick time?
And is that for the 90 days?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then do you want to continue do you want to continue the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act, which is basically, caring for an individual subject to an order, a quarantine order, caring for a child whose school or daycare has closed? You want to
Yes, ma'am.
continue everything but just for 40 hours?
40 hours.
Okay, is that just for full-time employees?
Yes.
And then 20 hours for part-time?
Is that how it was currently?
It was 80 hours for full-time, 40 hours for part-time.
Correct, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Question is, can someone take, disability if they're gonna be out?
With the time length, as long as I do
Do you mean,
If you have to be out for 14 days, can you take disability?
well, you mean if they have like a short-term disability policy?
It won't work. They don't have that shorter term.
it. I think that wouldn't, the 40
Our
days
employees
would-
don't have that? Okay.
Good question, but
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, you know, are there any other ways any other things that we could tap into
Not that
versus?
I know of. And I think this is very generous.
It is, because in light of, you know, you don't have anybody else, you don't have the federal government, you don't have the president, you don't have the governor, you don't have anybody that's supporting this.
And we did poll well, actually, another entity polled some other counties, and there were 23 respondents. 11 out of 23 wanted to extend the FFCRA leave, not extending with 6 and undecided with 6. So other counties are struggling with this same question. It's a difficult question and it's a gray area. And there are really no easy answers when it comes to COVID.
Yes, yes. Where's the funding, where would that come from as far as?
So this would just be, it's already budgeted. So it would just, and I would ask that you extend this and not make new hours available to people who have already used their 80 hours.
Sure.
Okay, so if you're extending it, that means to me that you're not saying, okay, you have a new 40 hours if you're quarantined for a second or a third time. It's, if you've already used your 80 hours, you've used your 80 hours. If you have not used your 80 hours, if you haven't asked for any of this leave, then you have up to 40 now.
Okay, now, so help me just understand. Their sick time started accruing October the 1st?
Yes.
And so you're thinking that as of now, January the 4th, that some people may have used their 80 hours?
No, ma'am, I'm talking about the 80 hours that was available to them under this program.
Okay, but
So what I'm suggesting is, or I'm asking for clarification, is you don't want to add 40 hours if they've already exhausted their 80 hours.
I see what you're
You don't
saying.
want to give them a new 40 hours.
Yeah.
This is for people who have not used their 80 hours.
Yeah, we're not giving the 80 plus 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 80 goes, the 80 was prior to December 27th.
Was December 31st is when it ended. So whether if they've used 50 hours, that's all they get. So everyone now has up to 40 hours that they can use. We're starting all over
We're
again.
gonna get a clean slate of 40 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna vote against this, but I believe that if you have sick time, you should take your own sick time.
I understand. But I think the 40 hours is just for a few more months, will encourage people who maybe don't have sick time to quarantine or to stay home if they're sick, possibly.
I'm making a motion to.
We
Yeah,
have a
motion and a second.
and a second.
All in favor?
Yes.
40 hours.
Thank you.
We got, administrator to discuss information items. Is that where we at?
I think we're at operation.
Okay. Operation. That is
20?
Yes.
okay.
So this really is a continuation of the discussion, I would say, regarding the policies that we have in place at the sports complex. I just want to update the board that, well, first of all, we have our DOC and our jail squads full-time, and it has made such a difference having all of the squads busy. They have picked up a tremendous amount of trash off the roads recently, and I'm really happy with having all those squads back, and I hope that it stays that way. I would like to just remind the board that, as we're discussing what type of policies we'd like to have in place, that we still have in effect for any county-owned building a reduced capacity. That number comes from taking the square footage, dividing it by 113, and that's what we allow and this is indoor facilities. So, I know that we've received some feedback from citizens, especially those who are involved in our community centers, that they are having difficulty with the rentals because the capacity is so low. And I just, want to remind the board that we're still doing that, and make sure you don't wish to go in another direction. We have safety plans on file. We do ask them to have temperature screening to obtain hold harmless. There's limited attendees, and we ask them to hold to their safety plan.
I would say we open up these community centers. If they don't want to go, don't go. But, they need to be open for use, and you're on your own.
Now, then my next question would be, we have limited capacity at the public library. We have limited capacity in this building, obviously. We have limited capacity at the courthouse. That is a little different because that's where our employees are. I would still like to do what we can to keep our employees safe.
And I agree, you know, but as far as these communities, people have to go to work, okay?
Yes.
We have people that have to go to work, government has to keep going every day. As far as the community centers, you don't have to go there, you don't have to hold an event. But if you decide you want to, it's up to you whether you go. And if we're gonna let festivals go forward, if we're gonna have sports going forward, I don't understand why we wouldn't let the community centers operate in the same manner.
So the guidance I'm looking for Shady Grove Community Center, Steenhatchee Community Center, and Forest Capitol Hall, if you still wish to limit attendance, ask for a safety plan, and ask.
That.
I wasn't there.
I think it's a waste of time.
Conrad, do we need a motion for that?
I would think so.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second? Motion second, all in favor?
Thank you. If I may move on to informational items.
Okay.
Just wanted to update the board. I think I contacted each of you, but Century Ambulance Services began providing EMS services on December 31st.
I heard them today.
Yes. So I believe that DMH is probably relieved. I know I'm certainly relieved. And I really appreciate the support from this board on that endeavor. And I haven't heard of any problems so far. I think Marty already left. So, so far so good. We are planning to hopefully move the campsite host, to, this week, the RV to, Hampton Springs. My mind went blank for just a moment. And we're hopeful that we can get that couple settled this week. And I'm, again, very excited about that, to have them in place. We were waiting on some insurance documents and some clarification from our carrier, but we have all that in hand, and they have signed an agreement. The way the agreement works is we ask for a 6-month commitment at first, and then after that, we can renew if both parties are agreeable. So that gives us a little bit of time.
Are the restrooms and all in really good shape?
They should be, but I'll double check.
Everything's spiffy.
It should be ready, but, you know, we'll double check before we move them in.
Okay, now, do they have a gate they're gonna close when the
Yes.
part, and it's installed and it's
I'll double
got
check.
a lock and all that kind of stuff?
We're working through all of that. I think there was one gate we were looking for.
They've got the gates are there, all they got to do is lock them.
Okay, thank you. I know we were working on that about a week and a half ago.
Can anybody go in that park across the street when they want to, at night, in the daytime also? Do you have any problem with that?
The equestrian park, all of our parks close at dusk, so people should not be in the parks after dark.
We run the light out there 24/7 in that bar. The light is on, you know, in that bar lit up.
Just a reminder, the legislative delegation is scheduled for January 8th at 5 o'clock. So that's Friday at 5 o'clock. Our delegation will be here. And last but not least, I've confirmed that we've received a little over $2.6 million reimbursement for our CARES Act funds. We have a CARES Act funding committee meeting on Wednesday, and they will be working to bring a recommendation back to the board as far as any type of considerations for any unspent funds, or if you wish to consider any spending plans moving forward.
I've just been thinking about this a lot lately with the holidays and everything, and, you know, I know there are a lot of people, and I don't know how many we have locally, but there are a lot of people that are gonna be forced from their homes because they can't pay rent. And they're gonna lose their homes because they can't make their mortgage payment. And we got more and more people, even locally, standing in the food line. people are hungry. And you know, people shouldn't be homeless and cold and hungry in this day and time.
Mm.
And I want to make sure that we can put together something that can continue to help these kind of people, that if they've lost their job. I feel real sorry for these people.
I feel sorry for them too, but there's businesses all over town that got help on this time, and they tell me they won't nobody even apply. You know, with this many people out of work, well, it seems like you could get help, but they just, people, I've had two different people that's got businesses, they can't get no help. I mean, just,
Mean industry?
huh?
Industry or just individual?
Individual.
Industry or individual?
No, just individual business owners. They just can't get no help. People just want to, if they do come, they will come for 2 days and then you don't see them again.
Well, that might be true in some respects, but I can tell you what, when you got 500,000 people out of work, I don't believe 500,000 people doing the same thing.
So you know another thing too.
I got a son been out of work since July. He's willing to work.
So I believe the CARES Act Funding Committee will do is to bring forth some suggestions, some recommendations to the board, possibly continuing the individual assistance program, possibly extending the small business program. But what I'd like you to, keep in mind is that we've already received our full reimbursement unless we're eligible for additional reimbursement. So any funds that the board spends moving forward are not reimbursable. We received the reimbursement ahead of the spending plan.
Yeah. You know, to comment I want to make, and I know that there's people that there's a job right there and they won't take it. But when they got little children at home, the little children can't help what their parents do. And the little children don't need their electricity turned off and be hungry and cold. And, that's always a dilemma.
So how do individuals and small businesses apply for this benefit?
Well, so the program has ended now.
Yeah.
So we had our phase 1 and phase 2, and then what we did was submit expenditure for personal services to get to the $3.6 million mark. And so we basically kind of bundled some of our expenditures and requested the reimbursement because we didn't know if the program would be extended or not. And the timeline was so close that we were in basically a hurry to submit our expenditures, so we did not miss out on any of the funds that were allocated for us. So as of right now, we don't have any programs. So that's what we'll bring back to the board, is to see if you would like to consider extending these programs. And if you would like to consider another phase of individual assistance or small business assistance. Or any other, COVID-related programs you would be interested in. So the CARES Act Funding Committee will meet again, and then we'll bring a recommendation to the board. Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Go ahead. Someone say something? Anybody else? I think I closed my packet up. Was that all?
Well, I got
Okay.
comments from the public for non-agenda items.
Okay, any telephone?
And then Commissioner.
Okay, now we go to commission.
I've got something.
Go ahead.
It seems like we talked about this 10 years ago, but down on Nuttall Rise Road, the rock mine down there, I spent right at $100,000 in my road pavement money to fix that down there. And you've got those dump trucks and all that they keep tearing the road up. I hate to keep spending our taxpayers' dollars to fix that. Is there any way that we can levy some kind of fee, Conrad, to make them help us with that? They're tearing the road up. My people that live at Nuttall Road is not doing it.
Want to make it a toll road?
That'll work.
I want to prove that.
No, I want them to pay to help fix that road that they tearing up.
Let me research that.
Okay.
I know other counties may have a usage tax or fee for tonnage of say fertilizer or different products that are sold that might benefit the county's revenues depending on the tonnage. I'm not quite certain how those agreements are put in place.
I'll research that, see what I can find on that. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Not necessarily my district, but I had a couple of folks come to me about the beaches, Keaton Beach in particular, these park model, I'm gonna call them, I guess, park model homes that's parked on these lots with, central heat and air. The outside unit sitting on the ground beside it, and the question was, is that, you know, in the event of a storm, is that considered a, camper style trailer that could be removed to the road ready? Yes, sir. That's my understanding, is the agreement is that whether it be an RV, park model, one of Lego, it's gotta be road ready in the event there's a declared state of emergency, it's supposed to be removed. I guess their concern is, it was more or less with the air handler outside, and I mean, I know when these storms come through, there's stuff moving all over people don't move all their stuff out of the way. Their stuff gets blown and washed all over the place anyway, but I think the concern was with their handler sitting outside, so we end up on the property. Sure, the projectile and be very dangerous, I would agree, but my understanding is that's covered under what's allowed, and it would need to be removed with that park model.
I can research that.
That's my understanding, anything that's being connected to it, you know, whatever that vehicle is to be disconnected rather quickly, so that it can be hooked up.
That's in case of
In
emergency.
24 hours.
I mean, I'm not against it, the question come to me from three different folks that I just thought about that. Anyway.
Anything else? James, ready? Yeah?
I was completely put out with this health department business tonight about the number of vaccines that they got, and how many shots they give. If it's going that same way around the whole country, we in trouble. They want this thing to end one day, they need to speed that up. I mean, that gets me now. You can't, that's hard for me to imagine. I thought, you know, looking at TV, they just in high speed in some places, just lines and lines and giving shots in the window of the car and going right on, you know. And that just, it don't sound right here, I don't know. It just got me, I don't know how y'all feel about that, and I won't, you know, and I think he understood that when he left here tonight, that he needs to research, get some more help or something. I'm gonna talk to our congressman and the state representative about it myself, and, see if that ball can't bounce the wire. That's pretty, but everybody, as long as you wait, more people are gonna get sick, you know.
You know, I agree with you on that. If you listen, every community has had the same problem, and it goes back. It's not his fault. Take it on back to the federal government. They knew the vaccine was coming, so why didn't they make preparations 8 months ago to make provisions so that this vaccine could be administered? It's poor planning on their part. I can't blame him as an individual. I go on up the ladder with that one.
Yeah, it is, because, well, they weren't sure when the vaccine was gonna be accepted to use, you know, so their timeframe, I think they were held up thinking it was gonna be more months before it got approved. You know, listening at the big picture on TV, but now what you see on TV, that's, you know, that's a lot of action going on there. But I mean, it looks like our local bunch here, whatever it takes to get it speeded up, we need to, you know, and that got away with me.
Bottom line, they had a lot of months to make preparations to help the local departments to get ready, and they didn't do it. They sat there and they did nothing.
He's got 1,000 shots there, and that can give, we're just a handful.
He doesn't have
He's got
anybody to
950.
give them. He doesn't have the personnel.
I know it.
Could we reach out and see if there's other resources we might have to offer to offset that wait time? Perhaps we could supply local, I mean, we can talk to folks up the ladder, but I think we can supply things on the ground much faster than we could deal with up the ladder.
Yeah.
So, if we could, Mr. Wanda, see if there's other possibility for doing whatever's necessary that's within reason.
Well, the board already approved, I believe, $23,000 for the health department for additional personnel. Now, that was at the time for contact tracing, but I can certainly take it back to the funding committee and see if and that money was not spent, and see how they feel about, you know, reapproving that for actual, you know, nurses or whatever they need. And it may be that the original request could still be utilized. I mean, the money was approved and it's budgeted, and I mean, it's part of our CARES Act
If
funds.
that could be allocated to help them expedite the paperwork process, maybe that'd help free up some of the nurses not be in that
Right.
particular.
I mean, the board's already approved that, so I could reach out to Mr. Pad and remind him that the funding's available. We actually the board approved that and funding for a tent. So, you know, I would assume that that money's still available to spend. Since we've already received our reimbursement, the December 31st deadline was for purposes of reimbursement. So I can certainly remind him that those funds are available and see if he'd like to take advantage of that.
Even if it only helps in this first wave of getting these clinics going, and then it enables us to get to the remote location faster, whatever would be of assistance to remind him or find other location.
Well, you heard him say tonight that, you know, you've got nurses that can go somewhere else and they'll make $50. He didn't say it, but I'm just saying they can make way more money. And why are they gonna come here and work for half the price and be exposed? And so he has a real problem there with that. But I'll tell you what we need to do. We need to be talking to our congressmen and all, and they need to let Walmart, CVS, they need to let these people in the doctor's offices start giving out this vaccine. Why does it have to be just the health department? Yeah, I can go to Walmart and get any other kind of vaccine. How come they can't give them there?
Yeah, I got a flu shot at Walgreens, you know, it ain't no big deal, you
That's
know.
right. So how come they can't give it? I mean, it's something here we don't quite know and understand, I believe.
They might be the health department might be partner with a hospital here to get some of their employees that would work overtime or something to give the shot, you know. I mean, I'm gonna talk to Jason Schultz and Blaylock about this, you know.
They probably would reach out to maybe different entities that's gonna be, who's gonna put the money out.
You know, Dr. Parker, I thought was a pretty good doctor, and he gave me authority at 14 years old to give my grandmama. 20 years, and she was 90 years old when she died, you know. I believe I can give her $5 shot.
Are you volunteering?
$5 shot.
Oh,
Well, they gave me 70, you know, they had them for a week.
I got some friends from Jefferson County, one of them caught the virus, they all started injecting Ivermectin. California, and they all doing it now, and even the ones that's got sick doing it, they're not even going to the doctor, they just inject him, they went to Tractor Supply and bought Ivermectin. And they actually, one got cured, he said he was cured in 2 days. I don't know.
Anything else come before the committee?
Right here, motion adjourned.
Motion.
Second.
Good job.
Good job, Mr. Chair.
The host has
I'll be in
ended
touch,
the
Council.
call. Goodbye.
I gotta call my taxes.
Yeah.